Ready to go? Sherry, are you ready?
Yes, we are.
Sweet. Okay. So, roll call, please.
Are you going to welcome everybody to the
Oh.
meeting and introduce the meeting and the date and all that? At
Would
the
you like me
beginning
to
of
do
your
that first?
That's at the beginning of your agenda.
So you would like me to introduce everybody first?
So Brian, Chair, if you could start with the agenda and call to order before the roll call.
Okay, I thought I just did that.
Well,
but-
with the date,
Sorry,
and so-
yes. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Regular meeting of the Ojai Historic Preservation Commission will be called to order, is being called to order by the chair, that's me. It is November 14th, 2024, and we started exactly at 6 o'clock p.m. tonight. So,
Roll call.
roll call, please.
Chair Akins,
Here.
Vice Chair McCatton,
Here.
Commissioner Basasha,
Here.
Commissioner Sims,
Here.
Commissioner Walker.
Here. Perfect. Okay, we will now say the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please stand and follow me. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Thank you all. Read public communications. Public communications is the time set aside during the Historic Preservation Commission meeting for members of the public to address the Historic Preservation Commission on items of city business other than scheduled items. Matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by the commission and will generally be referred to staff and/or placed on a subsequent agenda. Under state law, other than for emergency items, no action can be taken at this meeting. So, do you have any cards, Mara, for public comments?
no, I do not.
Okay, neither do I. Sherry, do you have any people on Zoom that would like to make a public comment?
No.
Okay, sweet. Excellent, thank you all. So the next thing is museum representative report, and I received that information from Wendy Barker. She is the executive director of the Ojai Valley Museum, and she shares with us this coming Friday, which is the third Friday. It's always a big deal. The museum stays open later. There are often, used to be entities downtown that also stayed open. So third Friday, tomorrow, November 15th, open from 5 to 7 p.m. There will be a town talk Sunday, this coming Sunday, December 1st, 4:30 to 6 p.m. Cassandra C. Jones is a curator of In the Realm of Spiders. If you're afraid of spiders, go, because it's just fascinating. She will talk about the exhibition. This exhibition ends the next week, December 8th. Opening in mid-December is an exhibition highlighting historic maps from our collection. We may actually find out where the sanitary station was just over here. We've made that request for aerial maps and see what we can do to answer that question. So, again, Ojai Valley Museum. I thought the thing most intriguing was there were 3 leaves that were dangling and they were dangling on actually spider web. I'm like, whoa, it's kind of cool. So that's the report. Because of what we've done, and I didn't see it on there, but I wondered when we should declare site visits and/or ex parte discussions, because we're talking about certain locations. In
Right
this
before
meeting.
the public hearing.
Right before the who?
Public hearing,
Pu-
so after the consent item.
It's kind of fallen off of our agenda, so.
Okay,
We'll make sure that's on next time.
site visits. Great. Thank you, Sherry. Okay. So I'll ask for that when we get to it. Okay, so we'll go to consent items, and that's the minutes of September 12th, 2024 regular HPC meeting. Again, just a reminder to ourselves that we didn't meet in October because we had folks that were not going to be able to attend the meeting. So, consent item minutes. Are there any questions, any corrections? Yes.
Yes, I have a couple. On item number 5 on the Rotary Park, it says motion Chair Akins Walker. I believe that was you that made, was that you that made the motion and I seconded it?
Probably. I can't remember for sure.
Okay, so just strike out Walker. And then I think where it says the motion to consider landmarking Rotary Park, I believe it was to make it a point of historic interest.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you because I put not landmark, but another term.
And then I just have one more under item number 6. It says there was a motion by Principal Planner Macaluso. Does the planner make motions?
No, thank you. Just a second. No, I guess it would not be a motion. We'll have to have that corrected, but it was perhaps a suggestion or letting you know that we were canceling the meeting of October 10th.
Okay.
And,
That's all.
and there was an aye vote by all commissioners voting yes. Can we go back to number 5? And so we're striking the motion, the motion is Chair Akins moved. And it was to not consider landmarking, but to consider what? I'm sorry.
A point of historical interest.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else? Okay. Any other comments, suggestions, corrections? Okay. So do we have a motion then? To
I'll
go-
make a motion
Okay.
to approve with the changes.
I'll second.
Okay. Sherry?
Akins,
Yes.
McCatton,
Yes.
Basasha,
Yes.
Sims.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Okay. Site visits, we did consent item.
This would be the time to talk about site visits and ex parte.
Okay, just before we get there, I just wanted to, since it affects us, and in case others are wondering, I know some people are wondering. On Tuesday night, the city council approved our 3 members, that would be Loren, myself, and Rick, to be reappointed to the Historic Preservation Commission. And they also approved 2 new individuals to be sworn in and become commissioners. That's Laurel Moore and Randy Catlett. Weston, who does the swearing in, is at a seminar, I believe, yesterday and today, and so was unable to do that. So that will be taken care of before our next meeting, and I anticipate they will attend, and we will have 7 commissioners. Oh, happy day. So I just wanted to get that on the record in case people are wondering why there's 5 of us. Okay, so next we'll go to public hearing item. I'm sorry, ex parte. Any site visits and/or ex parte discussions? Craig?
Yes, I had, first of all, I had a conversation with Mitch Stone. I had read the item in our agenda packet, and I contacted him and referred him to the section that about his firm, and so that was the conversation I had.
That would be on this item for public hearing item, sign permit and major work permit?
I think it's just,
a public hearing.
well, it's conversations and visits.
Okay. I guess I thought it would be done before each item on the agenda, which is what we do, it's what we do at other commission
Oh,
meetings.
okay, well, we can
But-
do that.
No, that's fine. I apologize.
So, okay, yeah, I thought we
And-
generally did that just at the beginning, so we didn't do the individuals, but I'm open to anything. Okay, so this should, in the interest of moving along, should cover all of the items that you might have visited with.
Okay, and then I also went and visited the Olive Press. They were busy getting ready, and talked with Michael Mendiza, and took a look around and also looked at the store near it, the Osteria Monte Grappa, just from the outside, looked at it.
Okay,
So that was it.
okay, great, thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, I visited on 2 occasions, both sites. Didn't speak with anyone, but I took a real good hard look around.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, like Lorianne, I also visited both sites and checked it out and then reread the report to make sure I understood everything.
And me as well, yes.
And what did you do?
I also noticed, I remember a previous group of commissioners, we were always wanting to get the signs being the same level, but
Right.
especially if you're looking at the arcade, the right half, the signs are just, they go like this all over the place. So at some point, maybe it's a public works thing that we get them back to where the bottoms all kind of line up. That's how it always was. I'm not sure. Kind of got a little wonky over the years.
Okay,
And looked at a lot of different signs and read our ordinances to see what was in compliance and what wasn't, and looked at the 2 items that are on here with those addresses as well.
great, thank you very much. I did talk to Mitch Stone, so, and then also got the email from him. I did not cross the street to look at the 2 buildings, and the reason is, and this is one of the things, is because I was thrilled with how the paint job and the repair jobs turned out on the arcade going through there. And I had been watching that every time I went through there and talking to the individuals, so it was so good that I just had to stay across the street and admire it, so. And I know they came to us, they were very careful through the procedure. I talked to the city and also the workers, so good for them.
Well, I have a question. When does one talk about things that they see when they're making visits that don't affect these particular projects but affect other things?
Commissioner comments.
Okay.
Oh, hi, Taylor. Okay. There we go. Great, thank you. So, where'd Jeff go? Oh, sorry. So what number is this?
I don't have the agenda in front of me.
Okay.
To review the architectural merit structures.
Oh, the structures of merit?
Yes.
Okay, and that's 4 or 5? 3? 4? 4, okay, item number 4. So Jeff, I'll just put that for you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, and Rick's gonna remind me that it's right there. Okay, are we ready then to move on to public hearings? Yes, okay, so we'll open public hearings and get a staff report from Mara Macaluso. In
Thank you.
case you don't know how to spell that, just call her number and it's in your message on your phone.
Is it?
It is.
My message seems to keep
Letter by
changing,
letter,
and
yes.
I'm not the one who makes those messages. I don't know
I think
why.
I think it was Sarah,
Okay, yeah.
Sarah's voice. Okay, so item number 2, public hearing.
That's funny that she spelled my name. Anyway, so thank you, Chair and Commissioners. I want to step back half a step and respond to 2 things. One is we are staff, City of Ojai is reactive when it comes to our code compliance. We don't go looking for things, however. So what's happened recently with another commissioner or anybody, if they talk about things that they see that they think might not be up to code or they know aren't up to code or there's construction going on or something like that, we ask you that you please submit a statement, a complaint on my Ojai. It's on our city's website.
Oh, okay.
And then it goes straight to code compliance, and then the code compliance officer either deals with it immediately or contacts staff to see what the issue is or if there's an issue. We review the code, design guidelines if necessary, and if appropriate. And so that's how that works. And interesting to hear about the arcade signs, because yes, the design guidelines for the arcade are very specific about, I think it even says the word exactly. They're supposed to be hung exactly X number of inches from the sidewalk and from the ceiling, and they're all supposed to be the same. So I'll have to look into that as to whether or not it's if we should have, if somebody wants to submit something to my Ojai, or how that gets started. That the other thing would be, a new sign hasn't been hung up there since, I can remember the last sign that we approved was actually a member of the HPC. And so, generally speaking, after a sign gets installed, wherever it is in the entire city, or a fence gets installed or anything gets done that had got a permit, the applicant then contacts planning, especially when it's something like a sign or a fence, and then we go out and inspect it to make sure that it complies with the plan that was approved, which in the sign case would be that it's X number of, so, over time, again, I don't know that, maybe 2 have been approved by the HPC since I've been here, but it's a good thing to look into, and if you wouldn't mind sending something through my Ojai, that would be great. And so that brings us to our request tonight.
Before you move on to the staff report, I think that's an interesting item. Could you just explain to the folks that are here, which is then going to explain to the people that might be watching this, about my Ojai, because it's open to anyone, correct?
Right, so my Ojai is on the City of Ojai website, and it's where people will file complaints that will go straight to the code compliance officer. And so if it's something that's like happening immediately, that has to be dealt with immediately, like somebody's cutting down an oak tree, then you don't go and submit it on my Ojai, because someone is gonna read that later on that day or the next morning. So that needs to be dealt with immediately, right? But if it's something like, hey, I saw a sign, or somebody's doing construction, or there's a fence next door, I don't think they got a permit, I don't know, whatever it is that somebody's upset about or concerned about, they want to put it on my Ojai, and anyone in the city or anyone that goes onto our website can access my Ojai. Super easy process.
So question, there is no one in the city that monitors what goes on downtown?
Well,
That to me is shocking.
so again, we are reactive, and we don't have a code compliance officer walking around looking for things that have been done. A sign goes up, and no, I mean, I'm in the office, I'm working, and so a sign goes up and somebody notices it, and they call up, which just recently happened with Commissioner Walker, and I asked him to please put it on my Ojai, and you know what? It's being dealt with immediately. It was dealt with immediately. It's in the process right now. We've already contacted property owners and business owners, so it gets dealt with right away. Again, we are reactive.
Okay.
Absolutely. And
Because I
that's-
just thought, they were in there painting and it looks so beautiful, but a lot of those chains are broken, and I thought, well, they were in here with their ladders. They could have.
So there's public property and private property, and the city was painting the public property. They were not able to paint or do anything to the private property.
So is the ceiling?
The ceiling is city property, and they were painting the ceiling. The signs that are being hung are not public property, they're private property.
But they're being hung from chains that are public property.
You know what, I can look into that and get back to you.
It's just confusing.
That is, we can talk about signs, and we can put it on the agenda. I think that I've educated the public and the people here in the room about my Ojai, and whatever you want on the agenda, if there's 2 of you or the chair wants something on the agenda, we can put it on for the next meeting.
Great. No, thank you for that explanation. I think, get it out for more than us, or, I don't want people to think it's just us that can do
Could
that.
I add something to that?
Yeah.
This complaint-driven code in Ojai has been this way for quite a number of years, and also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not uncommon in many cities to have it be complaint-driven, because it's just would be too overwhelming from a time and staff standpoint. Is that so, or am
It's
I
accurate,
speaking
yes.
out of turn?
That is accurate, yes.
Okay.
And I also just want to, since this topic isn't really on the agenda, I want to caution the commissioners for going too much further and maybe get back to the agenda.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Nope, I'm good on that commercial. Thank you. Okay, so we will move to then item number 2 and a staff report, please.
Yes, so item number 2 is a sign permit and a work permit regarding hanging of a new sign for Ojai Olive Press and to paint the exterior front facade. It's for a single retail establishment located at 246 East Ojai Avenue, and this is located within the City of Ojai Historic Landmark number 5, which is the Ojai Arcade. The projecting sign, that would be the sign hanging from the chains from the ceiling of the arcade, is an allowable sign through the Ojai Arcade sign design guidelines. They projects or see what's happened now. Retail stores there are allowed, or what businesses in the arcade are allowed, one projecting sign and one wall-mounted sign for each storefront. And these signs must be constructed of wood, and the colors have to be harmonious with the building and adjacent areas. And the colors have to include backgrounds of earth colors, different browns, and natural stained wood colors. And the colors that, specific colors that are allowed are in this architectural hues by Dunn Edwards that was reviewed and approved by the HPC some years ago. The colors that are proposed for this project are here in the in this palette. They're labeled for you, and I'm going to pass this to Commissioner McCatton, and you guys can pass it along if you'd like to. The projecting signs, projecting sign that's being proposed and what is permitted is a 15 by 48 sign that's rigidly suspended no more than 50 feet from the face of the storefront. The sign is proposed as such, as well as the sign has to be exactly 96 inches from the surface of the sidewalk directly under the sign. And we are going to ensure that that's the case. And I'm sure that the applicant knows that's exactly what to do and is going to do that. We've been working closely with the applicant, and the sign materials and colors, he's been guided through the process and is doing exactly what is what was approved by the HPC previously for and within the arcade design guidelines. So along with the sign, the facade colors are also within the Ojai arcade design guideline approved colors, which is in that palette as well. The facade colors are a shade of white and gray from Benjamin Moore from that palette, just like the other colors, which for the sign, which are a grizzly and a shade of white. So staff is recommending approval of the colors and the signs, or sign. I'd like to confirm with the applicant. No, actually, I guess I don't need to right now. We have one sign, and it's the hanging sign. The two signs that are currently on the windows are not being proposed in this submittal. They are not permitted through the design guidelines, and the applicant is aware of that. And I'm certain that they're going to be taken down as soon as he gets his other sign up and his business going, his establishment opened. And the applicant is here if you have any questions of him. Thanks.
I have a question for you. It says that the, let's see, where is that? Oh, on the color? The wall color of the main arcade wall structure shall be Benjamin Moore Navajo white. And when I was walking down there, I noticed that not every store does that, but most of them have conformed to that. And above the door and the frame is Navajo white, and it unifies the buildings along with the arches. And so I'm wondering, because I looked at the picture and it looked like they had a different shade of white that was pointing to that area.
So my understanding right now is that the walls of the arcade that are the public property, which is the arches, and then a strip that's above, at the top of the storefronts, are to be Navajo white. And I as well, during this process with the two projects that are here tonight, have walked and looked at the paint colors and the windows and such. And the different stores have different colors that are within the palette, perhaps, hopefully, that are the wall colors that are not Navajo white. And so I understand your question and your concern. And again, my understanding was that it was the rest of the arcade beside just the frame of the storefront and just around the storefront that had to be Navajo white.
Well, it seems that the framing around the windows and the doors and all of that, it seems like those can be different within the palette. But above, where they all tie together, now I know I looked and there were some oddball color went all the way to the top, and I figured maybe they didn't get a permit or.
So was that area stucco, or was it a different material? Or are you aware of what
Well,
it was?
There were a couple. One was like the ivy, which is understandable because it really has an authentic, original look going all the way up quite a ways. So I could see how that one would be different because it seems like there were some of the stores where the original look remained, and then others where they were creating something that was reminiscent or suggestive of the historic period, but not necessarily the exact duplicate of what they had there before. And for those, they had all these things about the windows had to be so far off the sidewalk, and so I'm just wondering that area above, it looked really nice, I thought, where they were all Navajo white going down.
So if you look on attachment B for this project on page 4 of 5, where the applicant is proposing to have the SP1, the white color,
Yes.
that's immediately around the storefront windows.
Yeah.
And then if you see in the upper kind of right-hand corner of that picture, you can see there's a line where then perhaps the material of the storefront changes, and it changes to the stucco that's continuous. And my interpretation of this is that this SP1 color is just around the storefront windows and not continuing to the stucco that is continuous.
It's up above.
That's up above.
Up above. So
Which
that will
has
be
to
the
be
Navajo
Navajo
white
white.
and continue
Right.
that.
And so when I was out there with Public Works for the painting that they were doing, and we were just talking about the differences in the material and the Navajo white, and there are many parts of the arcade on the storefront side that are the stucco, and then there are parts that are not. And something I experienced more than ever before is just how different every storefront is. They're not all the same. They're all different on purpose. I mean, I think it was constructed this way. However, the very top is mostly, not even all, continuous with the Navajo white and that specific type of stucco. So for this project, though, it's my clear understanding that it's just around the storefront windows and not the stucco above that is more continuous.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Mara? No? Do we have I don't have a card, but you said the owner is here?
The applicant is here, who's the business owner, and yeah, we don't have cards for the applicants, only for public speakers. So if the applicant wants to come up and state your name for the record.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Michael Mendiza.
Hello, Michael.
Hi.
So we just wondered if you wanted to say anything
Oh,
about this project to us. This is your
yeah.
opportunity.
I have no interest in changing the continuity issue that you're after. That's not really my focus. I was inspired by Raines, the department store.
Mm-hmm.
They basically used the white and just a minimalist gray trim, just one line of it, and I found it really aesthetic and beautiful and contemporary and clean and so on. So that's basically, I'm modeling what we're doing after Raines. That's the whole idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
Your sign is lovely. Your sign is lovely.
Well, I made a mistake, and the first one I did, it was reversed. I had a white background instead of the dark background. And so they said, oh, you gotta be careful, we need a dark background. And then when I looked at how you had all the signs with the dark wood as the background, I went back and changed it, and it works beautifully. So I'm quite happy with it. I'm glad you like it. I think it's beautiful, too.
Can I say a
Yes.
word or
Yes,
two
of
about
course.
Michael?
Sure.
I just want to say that I've known Michael for years. I was on the board of the Krishnamurti Foundation, and Michael was very involved with the organization on many different levels. And he is an entrepreneur, as you can see from his business, but he also is a wonderful artist and photographer, has done some beautiful photography. And he's also a exhibit designer and a historian. He's really done more than I think anyone else to tell the story of Ojai's most famous resident, Jiddu Krishnamurti. He's done several books. He did an exhibit that was at the Ojai Museum not too long ago. So we welcome him to the world of historic preservation in Ojai.
Thank you, Craig. I came in 1974.
Yeah.
It's been over 50 years. And I'm astonished to say that, but I've been working with Krishnamurti's life and his legacy internationally, and obviously focused here for 50 years, so it's a long time.
He used to live out of
Yeah, I used to live on the East End in the Pierpont
Pierpont
Cottages.
Cottages.
And I met my wife here. So then the director was Mark Lee, who was a resident for years and years. Mark was a dear, dear, dear friend for decades, and so Zdenka, she goes by Z. I met her at Mark's house, so
Great.
anyway.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you, Craig.
Anything else?
Nope.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay. So discussion.
Well,
Do we close the public hearing here?
Close the public hearing and discussion or motion?
Yes. Discussion or a motion?
Wait, was the public hearing opened and
I
anybody
did.
invited
I
to
remembered
come
that,
up?
Sherry.
Did anybody get invited to come up? Because I didn't get asked.
We just invited the owner. Is there?
You know what, Sherry? I'm sorry. We didn't open a public hearing, but we did have the applicant speak. So is there anyone in the public realm that would like to speak? Sherry?
Not on Zoom.
Yeah, and I don't have a card, so
Okay, so then, Chair, you can close the public hearing and
we'll
then.
close public hearing then
Thank you.
and open it for discussion and/or a motion. So, any discussion?
No, I think we
move
should
that
get
we
this going.
adopt the resolution.
There we go.
Yeah, and I will second that.
Okay, so motion by Craig Walker and a second by Gina McCatton. So call the roll, please, Sherry?
Gina, or McCatton, excuse me.
Yeah, yes.
Basasha,
Yes.
Akins,
Yes.
Sims,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Great, thank you. And thank you for being here and for sharing your thoughts and for your involvement in our valley. Thank you very much.
I'm delighted to be here and for bringing, it's a win-win for everybody, so it's a nice thing.
Agreed.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
You-
Okay, now moving over to item 3. This is a discussion item. Does
This
that
is
mean
a
we don't
discussion.
open it for a public hearing? You'd think I would know this, but
This is a discussion,
Okay.
discussion item.
yes.
And so after staff report and the applicant talking, then you can open up for public comments.
Okay. So staff report, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair and Commissioners. So this is a concept review regarding alteration of a front facade, including relocation of the front wall of the front of the storefront to accommodate outdoor dining at a bench seat. And there's a mistake here in the staff report in this subject heading. It would be it says for 5 patrons, but it's ultimately for 8 for an existing tenant space. Again, located in the Ojai Arcade Landmark Number 5 at 242 East Ojai Avenue. So specifically, the applicant is requesting conceptual review for the relocation of the existing front wall of the tenant space to be moved back 5 feet to create approximately 65 square foot area for outdoor dining. There would be accommodated there a bench seat that would not be movable, I guess, I don't know what I would call that. But a built-in bench seat for 4 18-inch round metal stationary tables, but for 8 patrons, because people would sit on the other side. And there would be a wrought iron fence, I guess you'd call it, or gate, in between the seating and the sidewalk. The existing transom windows are proposed to be maintained, while the storefront below is what would be altered. They would be demolishing that whole storefront system and then replacing it. The existing windows would be replaced with pocketing stained wood screened windows, and there would be a pedestrian door. The gate that I was talking about, I guess it would be called, it's a railing, would be wrought iron. Also included in the conceptual review is a painted logo on the front-facing stucco wall. So the Ojai Arcade Design Guidelines were adopted by the City Council in 2008, and the guidelines don't include details for outdoor dining, however, do include guidelines for outdoor seating. There's specific spaces along the arcade for seating, and the seating is very specifically for bench seating, and the benches can be purchased through the city. There's another handout, which is in your packet, that includes the benches outdoor merchandise displays. So the guidelines, or the arcade storefronts, they've been determined through the guidelines to be appropriate for pedestrian seating, very, very specifically. And outdoor dining has been provided for the restaurants at the rear, or can be provided. So again, the primary function of the arcade has been and is to serve as a pedestrian walkway. The guidelines further include that storefronts should reflect mission revival architecture and the overall design of new construction when approved through the Historic Preservation Commission, as well as the Planning Commission, would be to emphasize simple forms and details and convey craftsman or kind of handmade quality. These words are taken from the design guidelines for the arcade. New building or physical changes are to be evaluated through the design review, the HPC, as well as, again, the Planning Commission. The integrity of the arcade as a series of shops are all of equal visual importance and are to be viewed from across the street, kind of a behind the scene from the arches, which is what's supposed to be the more dynamic visual piece from the street or from across the street. Specific details in the guidelines for windows and doors include that all of the windows be approximately 16 inches up from the sidewalk, and you'll see that kind of a banner, border, I guess, underneath the windows. We just saw it in the last project where they want to paint it a shade of white to match Rains. And the glass is supposed to be the glass storefront windows are supposed to be maintained in a clear condition at all times and not be obstructed. The architectural integrity, again, is of Mission Revival. All doors are to complement the design of the rest of the storefront. If a formal submittal for this project is received, then the Planning Commission will review it, as well as the Historic Preservation Commission. If it gets to the Planning Commission, they would be reviewing and considering a design review permit as well as a conditional use permit. The conditional use permit would be for the outdoor dining, because all outdoor activities require the review and consideration of a conditional use permit. So, let's see. A work permit would be through the Historic Preservation Commission, and potentially a permit would be required through the Public Works Department as well for being in the public right-of-way, and that would be an encroachment permit. And in addition to a potential, I don't want to call it an issue, but subject that might come up through the Historic Preservation Commission would be the requirement of a historic resources report being prepared, since this is since the arcade is part of the landmark number 5. So we sent out a courtesy notice to all property owners within 300 feet of the arcade, just as a courtesy. It wasn't required, since this is a conceptual review, not a public hearing. And we received just one comment, and the comment was from Diane Farnham, and what she was stating is that she doesn't support this because she believes it would set a precedent for other businesses. It has the potential to give the front of the structure an unsightly look. It will encroach upon the sidewalk, limiting the public's right-of-way. And there's plenty of seating at the back patio, and it raises the question of safety. I will say that as far as the statement of dining at the rear, I believe there are photos in your packet that were received by the applicant of the arcade. But I know that staff also took photographs of the rear dining area for this particular site. And
So Mara,
I was-
just to add to that, we should be familiar with that, because that's where we ate after the commissioners' dinner.
if you attended that meeting, yes, that's where you ate. So the photographs that I thought were in here, I'm sorry, but they weren't submitted by the applicant, so they're not required, but I did take photos of the rear dining area. However, the plans that the applicant submitted do show the back dining area that's existing right now. So with that, the applicant is here. If you have questions of them, but of course, I'm available as well. And I want to tell you that, yes, at the back of your packet here for this item, there's the outdoor merchandise display, as well as the arcade design guidelines, and that was for your viewing pleasure and information while you were reviewing this project. Thank you.
Yeah, that was very helpful, thank you.
And so no recommendation is being made, because again, this is conceptual review, and no decision is being made tonight. However, comments, questions, concerns, praise, all things that the commission can offer to the applicants.
Okay, and no motions.
Correct.
Okay, Great, thank you. Mr. Yanel?
Go for it. I'll take it.
He's going with, we were talking about this before the meeting on the pronunciation. So I don't have a speaker card for you, but I didn't know if you wanted to come up and say anything. Sure. This is your opportunity, just like the gentleman before. So, yeah, please come to the microphone and
Please
Say-
state
say
your
your
name for the record.
My name's Tony Yano. And so a couple things that were brought up that I just wanted to make sure were made clear. One is that there would be an encroachment into the public right-of-way. There would not be. In fact, our detail shows a railing that cuts off right the same place that the storefront ends now. So there's no additional space there. There's a railing there that will delineate the space. The second thing is that there was a mention about there being already dining in the back, or do we need more dining in the front? It's not really a dining area. It's not like a place where people are gonna sit and like have a meal. There's not back to back. It's just one bench. The whole system only goes 5 feet back. So it's a bench to have a coffee or juice or whatever and kind of be a part of the arcade. And, you know, like people come to Ojai or go into Ojai to be inside, right? They come here to be outside. So have a little bit of space in front of the arcade, which isn't taking up any public right of way whatsoever. It's all just where we would have seating inside, just outside.
okay. Questions for the applicant?
I have a question.
Rick?
I know that this is a location that has an old historic mural in it. It's been there since I was a child. And I read in the report that you're doing something to protect it, although that's not really our purview, I guess. But I'm just curious if you could explain what
Sure.
that means.
The family that owns the building, as part of our lease, we are, it's incumbent upon us to maintain that or protect it. So we are covering it with a white poly wrap, which is just, if I don't know, you guys know what poly wrap is, but basically a construction material that would be like rubberized. Right now, there's a railing at the top and the bottom of it. They're like molding pieces. We're gonna take those off and staple up poly and then put bands of wood back above it to seal it all in. And that's how we were told to do it. So it's actually not as complicated as it sounds. And by the way, poly comes in giant rolls, so it would just be one continuous roll, and then it'll be wood paneled on top of it.
Okay, great. I'm glad it's being considered and protected. Thanks.
We were. It was a discussion on day one, and it was a discussion on the last day when we signed the lease. It's a big part of that family's ambition for the building. Maintaining it is.
And just to comment on that, since I'm associated with the museum, currently the treasurer, I was contacted by, I think, the daughter of the owner. And so they were actually looking to see if there was the possibility of, I say removing it, but taking it and having it stored elsewhere and used elsewhere.
The mural you're talking about?
The mural, yes. And so
I have
that was a
heard-
discussion
I've
that took
heard-
place weeks ago with, again, I think the daughter of the owner.
Yeah, I've heard a few different things, and at one point I was told, yeah, they're gonna come take it out. I said, great, and then I was told, no, that didn't work out, so.
Yeah.
We are a few steps away from swinging some hammers in there, so if they make a change before now and then, we'll leave it in or take it out. It doesn't fit with our design, but we are gonna take care of it.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that out in case people will see this and, have that question in their
Yeah.
mind. Well, why wasn't it relocated? It is,
Very
as you said,
long.
very large,
Yeah,
very large. And it has kind of a nursery rhyme theme to it.
from my eye, I believe that's correct, yeah.
Yes. And so, of course, depending on the ambiance, which nursery rhymes probably isn't conducive. That was another reason they were trying to move it, and they, I believe, had covered it before. So again, just some background to what was going on for our commission and anyone else.
There's Humpty Dumpty and the little piggies, so nursery.
It's all the way. It's all the way there, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
believe back when it was Tottenham Court, I believe they still had it showing, even though that was an English tea room, so.
Yeah, other artwork like that had been set up by schools, like nursery schools and that kind of thing, but yeah, wasn't available. So, any other questions?
Well, I look at that as more of a piece of art versus what the nursery rhyme is. It's important to me too, because I grew up seeing that as a little child, and I was looking in there today and on Saturday, and it's meaningful to me, as I think it is to a number of people who grew up here and still live here. And I don't look at it as a nursery rhyme, I look at it as a beautiful piece of art. So that's my feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I would just like to add that, like I spoke to you at the beginning before the meeting started. I grew up in Burbank, and I have a lot of family still in the Valley and LA, and Tony's restaurants have become a big part of my family's life. Golden Road, Beelman's, Mohawk Bend, Tony Starts Away. I've had my actual birthday parties. I've chose out of all the restaurants in Los Angeles. I've picked his restaurants over and over again to have my personal birthday parties. And he does a beautiful job with restaurants, with menus. He has Ojai Pub. I was so excited when he bought the bowling alley, but I totally understand that was a huge
Don't look at me with
undertaking.
bowling alley eyes. We're not here for bowling alley. Okay.
I know, but it was so exciting. But it was really exciting when I found out that I didn't have to go on the 101 and fight everybody to get down to a restaurant that right down the street from my house was going to be Ojai Pub. So I beyond the historic part of it, just as far as you investing into our community and you putting together these really good projects, I just want to say I really appreciate it, and I know they're good quality.
I got to bring you around with me because that was fantastic. Thank you very much. It's really nice to meet you.
Okay, so I don't have any questions of the applicant. I do have
Okay.
questions of our staff member.
Okay, so
So thank you very much.
should we leave
Thank you.
or stay? Or? Okay.
Yes.
I do have one thing to add that I didn't say in my presentation, and that was about the wall sign. So the arcade guidelines are very specific as to the types of signs that are permitted, and a sign painted on the stucco would not be permitted. It wouldn't comply, I should say. I should say it wouldn't comply, not that it wouldn't be permitted. It wouldn't comply with the design guidelines.
But then how about the window? Because
That's why I was letting you know in the staff report what the guidelines say. The guidelines are specific as to where the storefront windows are to be
and not being obscured by a bench or,
beyond that. I mean, yes, and including that, where literally where the windows are supposed to be. On page 2 of 4 at the bottom, it says the bottom of all windows, it says should, doesn't say shall, should begin 16 inches plus or minus 4 inches from the sidewalk immediately in front of the storefront and extending no higher than 96 inches. Glass shall be maintained in a clear condition at all times and not be obstructed by any element such as shades, curtains, or paper. So that would be a storefront window that had something in front of it, as opposed to, that doesn't sounds like a traditional storefront window that's not supposed to have anything obstructing it. However, it is, let's see. It depends how literally or how you're going to read this. So again, the storefront windows are to be maintained in a clear condition at all times and not be obstructed by any element such as shades, curtains, or paper. So this is for you to hear and interpret. These windows that are conceptually being proposed are pocket windows that have a screen. So it's not a traditional storefront window at all. And the guidelines seem to be guiding storefront windows that don't open, move, pockets, thus and such, and that are consistent throughout. So, but you have to look at what's the shoulds and the shalls here. And I included the language for you to look at when you're looking at what's being proposed, so you can comment. All new windows should be painted or anodized a color that's compatible with the architectural integrity of the Mission Revival style. Then it goes on to talk about the doors. So, are the windows that are being proposed, traditional storefront windows as are consistent in the arcade? This is your evaluation. I'm just here to give you the facts and the language that's in the design guidelines.
I do have a question. You mentioned that it's our landmark number 5, and you mentioned the design guidelines, but you didn't mention that the state historic district, that we are on the registry as a resource for the state of California. And they have very specific rules and guidelines, following the Secretary of the Interior standards, following CEQA. In fact, when they made the Downtown Historic District through that project with the Caltrans, they deemed Rains as a non-contributing because there was window alterations. So that's just something that's why I wasn't sure why it came to us, because we have to have the State Historic District weigh in. That it should be like a big conversation there as far as before something comes to us like this.
Well, actually, any applicant has a right to submit an application and to be heard and seen and get comments. And in my presentation, I did say that I think a historic resources report would be required. And through that is where the standards and the guidelines and the downtown state historic district
Yes.
would be reviewed.
Because when you look at
and that information, if they were, this is information for the applicant as well, because then if they were to come forward then with an application, they're not going to get to you before, we're going to find out at that point, okay, they're within the downtown historic district, state downtown historic district as the arcade, but also it's a city landmark, the arcade. So voila, numbers 1 and 2.2, you're going to have to prepare a historic resources report before coming forward to the HPC, and then the HPC's recommendation would then go to the Planning Commission for design review permit and a conditional use permit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I just wanted to make the applicant aware of the fact of getting back to the State Historic District, that when the consultant did the reports on the contributing buildings, which this is one of the contributing buildings, they wrote that what made it a contributing building is that the storefront has been altered, but within the original opening and in a compatible manner. The building therefore retains sufficient integrity to contribute to the downtown historic district. So if you are planning on removing and moving the door to one side and moving the whole wall back and doing all these changes, that's going to take it from a contributing to a historic district on the state level to non-contributing, because they said that's one of the factors that makes it contributing. So that would be a pretty steep hill to face. So just making you aware of that there are things not only on Ojai, and it is a landmark. It's one of the few buildings, I think, that we can kind of trace the ownership back to the early 20s, because it started off with Ed Schroff, who ran the first grocery store in Ojai there, and then he sold it to Claudia and Doug Jordan, and they ran it for quite a number of years. It's been Tottenham Court, Ed Benton's Saddle Shop, and Vesta and Osteria Monte Grappa. So we can kind of trace the history of it going back through the years. So it has historic value, not just as a part of the whole arcade, but in and of itself, it has historic value. And
that particular tenant space.
Huh?
that particular tenant space you're talking
That
about.
particular space, yeah.
So I want the commission to know, sorry, Commissioner, that from the very first phone call prior to conceptual review being submitted, staff has let the previous architect, because I think there's a new one now, but they've been prepped. I mean, from the very first phone call, it's a historic landmark. It's a historic landmark. It's a historic landmark. And one more time, it's a historic landmark. You know, are you sure you want to go forward with altering, requesting to alter the front? It's a historic landmark. So we've let them, we've made them aware from the very first phone call before these plans ever came in.
And going back to when I first came to Ojai in 1956, it's always just been a walkway. It's been a paseo where you look in the windows, and I think that's one of the things that the historic report has asked, that it remain a walkway for people going down through the arcade and looking in the windows and not become something else. And I think we all love outdoor dining, and there's a lot of places where it's appropriate, but I'm not sure that the arcade would be an appropriate place for that. Just a thought that it's supposed to maintain that historic use as part of the.
I just think it's really important that we not necessarily discuss whether we approve or don't approve, that it just goes back to the fact that it's a state historic district. It has to follow CEQA, it has to follow the Secretary of the Interior standards, whether we like outdoor dining, we don't, we think it would fit, we have to stick with the law here.
Well, I know, but my thing was that they stated
Right,
in the report that it needs to be a walkway. And sometimes I think even the benches that they have, like now there's one spot that they've stuck a new bench opposite another bench, and it makes it kind of hard to walk around the people looking in the windows. So I think that might be another thing we want to look at, is how much we, and if you do it for one person, then why wouldn't the next person, why wouldn't you have an outdoor restaurant? And it says right in the report that it should be late 1800s. It should be compatible with the late 1800s. And that was all these storefronts with windows. It wasn't indoor-outdoor spaces. It wasn't sliding windows in a more modern look. It was reminiscent of because the whole point of the arcade was you had this 1890s storefront with Italianate and Georgian style commercial buildings, and Libby came and put the arcade on the front of it. And it's just wonderful, I think, when you walk through it and you see all the beautiful old buildings as well as the arcade, which gives it a more modern for 1917 look. So I'm just trying to capture some of what I read. I noticed you didn't put the historic report in the packet for the arcade.
The state historic report?
No, the one for when it was landmarked. It's on your website, but it wasn't put in the packet, but
No.
it would be it's on the website, so you can download it, because they really talk about the feeling of the arcade and what they want to see maintained.
Yeah, I just have a question for you. I don't know, Craig Walker, he's his Ojai historian, wrote the book on the Ojai history. That's why he just has so much knowledge. So I just have to, you did a laundry list of all of the people who have been in that property. Who put up the nursery rhymes? I just assumed it was a children's store at some point or something. And what, do we
I
know?
think that was Doug Jordan. He put that up.
What was the,
Oh, I forgot it was David Mason's Village Florist for a while, but it
That's-
was before him, because when my mother would take me like you, and we'd go in and she'd shop for her groceries, and I'd love looking at that when I was a kid.
And David Mason. In Patricia Fry's book, she talks about how David used to go with his mother, who apparently worked in there, and loved looking at this. So, I mean, and that was when he was little. And
so, but
Yeah.
what kind of a store?
Well, it was a grocery store, but this is also part of Ojai because there was a big brouhaha over building the Y shopping center, you know, to move the commercial area out there and leave the poor arcade hanging and the businesses, because all of our daily life businesses were in the arcade. It wasn't the tourist shops like you see now. And Doug Jordan had this grocery store, and in 1960, when they built Safeway out at the Y, he made it a sporting goods store. And he even opened an island shop. It was a tiki wine shop in the back. So he kind of had to move with the times and create something different there. So he ran Doug Jordan Sporting Goods for many years.
And I think that people in the valley, I know my dad used to go in there and sit for a while and talk to Doug, and they go, probably your folks the same way. I mean,
A lot of the people that were there were just amazing. I mean, it was a store where the people that owned it were like #1 citizens, like David Mason, like Andy Bloom, who ran Tottenham Court. Doug Jordan was the most amazing man. He practically did so much for the youth of Ojai. And there were a lot of other people, I can't remember. A woman named Lydia Marcus owned Witchcraft was the name of her store.
So, do
Anyway,
we
I don't want to
have,
get too much into historical
And
weeds.
that also
do we have,
is,
do we have, I want to thank Commissioner McCatton for adding into this presentation regarding the state historic district. And that just kind of follows along with, you know, the fact that if they were to submit an application to come forward, that a historic resources report would be required. And as the applicant can tell, there's a whole lot of history here that contributes, some of which contributes to the architecture, and some of it just some, you know, wonderful memories of the different stores that have been there in the past. If there's comments for the applicant specifically regarding their application, they're here to receive that from you. And I think the biggest comment thus far that I've taken note of is that not only would a historic resources report be required, and that this is a part of the downtown historic district for the state, but also that there are specifics in our design guidelines requiring the bottom part of the building from the floor up X number of inches prior to windows being existing, and then a certain type of window. And the whole proposal here kind of takes away from that. So if there are other constructive comments that we can give to the applicant, and then we
Well,
can
one
move
more
on.
thing is that you mentioned the historic resources report, but it might be possible that that would lead to an EIR that he would have to complete.
But-
If that,
But we would get there when we got there,
so I'm just
one
trying
step
to
at a time.
put the
Right.
different things that might come up.
Right.
So I have a question, Mara. So in a report you have, it looks like you have multiple stores, multiple storefronts that seem to maybe indicate that businesses had adjusted their front property.
No, those are photos provided by the applicant, I believe. And they're just showing all the different types of frontages. Those are not altered necessarily. It's just different.
So,
It's
well, that's
interesting.
what I was saying, that there appear to be different types of front
There are-
along,
Yes, there are.
along.
One
The
of the
way it
things
works,
that's in,
Brian, go ahead.
one of the
Time out,
things-
let me talk.
All right.
One of the things that's in
Yeah,
common is the
Question.
bottom part that, below the windows. But yes, they're all different.
Okay, so, and somebody who was new to the valley could interpret that as maybe that happening more recent than it did. And,
Could be.
and so I just wondered, you know, if that's why they were submitted to. But, I don't, you know, to think of the front being altered like that, I just can't imagine.
Well, I just wanted to point out that one
I
thing
was
that might
hoping you would,
account
yes.
for the differences that you see is that when you become a landmark or historic property, you're not required to put the building back the way it was or to change it to become what the design guidelines are. It's only if you choose to change it that you have to follow those guidelines. So we don't know whether some of those fronts that you see that are different aren't actually the original ones.
Correct.
Yeah, and that what are in the design guidelines are how they want the treatments to be for the ones where we don't know what they were originally.
So our design guidelines are, for the arcade, are from '08, and the State Historic District is 2018, I think. So these storefronts, yes, could have been changed many times
Well,
prior.
they actually they do go back to 1993 when it was landmarked, because in the historic report, the design guidelines are almost identical to what you see in the ones that they adopted in 2008.
And that's something just, with the State Historic District, they had a very short amount of time that they, it's the Libby era of, it was it 19 to 1927 or 28?
1917 to 29.
Yeah, somewhere right in there. But so when they did their survey to come up with the fact that we were a state historic district and that we were a resource for the state of California, they did Rains as a non-contributing because of the windows being altered. When we are discussing our local district, because of the fact that now so much time has passed, that it's that new front of Rains is part of, because we go up to 1955. So we have a much bigger, because we're a local district. So we went through the mid-century on up. So that's why it's something that might be a non-contributing on a state district in a very short frame might be a contributing in our local historic district as we go forward, because our years are much broader. We encompass a lot more different eras and architectural styles, so that would still fit. But when I'm going through this, I'm reminiscing just the 20 years that I've been here. You know, I was like, oh, local hero, I remember that. And like all of these places and these pictures, so many of them don't exist any longer. And so when I think about all of the stores, as we talk about them, when something is done to something, and then that is no longer that particular type of store, whatever has happened to it carries on. So as a state historic district and a local landmark, we have to pay attention to the fact that even though this might fit this situation perfectly, we have to think much more. We're just, we're just passing through to the next commission, as they start to look at what was done and who wants to be in there next and what they want. So, we always have to have this continuity of our thought process when we talk about landmarks and we talk about state districts.
Another thing too, and when people are coming to us and they're talking about landmarking their property, their homes, we basically, and what's contributing is we ask them about the items that are on the outside of their house. They can choose, if they have something that's historic inside, to have that landmark, but generally we're looking at the exterior. So if you're looking at the different stores that are there in the arcade, what they've done inside that store is less important from a historical standpoint, from a landmarking standpoint, than what we see on the outside. So that's why the outside and what we're seeing there is so important to us.
Yeah, and that's with the State Historic District, they didn't, it's nothing about the inside of the building. It's the outside. It's the character-defining features from the outside of the building along the arcade. That's the Historic District.
Yes, it was put to me when I talked to the land attorney for Pac Bell, in talking about the downtown historic district, and she said, "You don't have anything historic. You just have a bunch of false front buildings." I'm like, boy, it got my dander up, but yeah, that attorney was not one that was going to be argued with. But
Yeah, well, I mean, what Meet Enriqua and what Libby did for Ojai is such a gift, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we're thoughtful in our decisions and not only decisions, but our suggestions or our advice that we pass along.
Agreed. Okay, anything else?
I want to encourage you to open. I mean, we need you here. Can you work without doing this? Can you
Yes, please
see,
come to
see the vision of doing your wonderful restaurant place without the front being altered?
I want to ask you about that. When you say the front being altered, I heard you say, someone say, move the door. So all the stores have doors at different places, but you're saying that for this particular place, if there's no alteration to the windows at all, that's the ruling, or that's what I should be keeping, okay. All right, well then,
Well,
thank you. Yeah, because then there's no, thank you.
You have to go
That's-
above our pay grade. I mean, just
Yeah, no,
look
no,
to the
that's okay.
Secretary of the Interior Standards and look to CEQA and then see what they would
Yeah.
say. And look, I mean, I could forward you the Downtown Historic District. You can read how it's written, so it's not really our decision. It's something that if it's it has rules that you have to follow.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and like I said, that's why they discredited Rains was because of the windows. That's why they made it non-contributing. So
Got it.
I'd be scared of it.
Okay, well, please send it to me. Thank you, guys, and see you again.
Well, thank you both very much. Yes,
Hello,
hello.
my name is Vina Listato. I'm actually the second applicant who filed for this original proposal. And so I would like to get more guidance as to what you think would be acceptable, because we certainly want to respect the history and the landmark of this particular project. So we have spoken about the possibility of not doing a setback just to respect the historical and landmark aspect of this project. And so if we were to not have the setback and maintaining the windows as required by the guidelines and having, the seating behind that, the window right on the property line, but can we still alter the location of the door more towards the right as opposed to the center, even though we're not doing the setback?
I think that's something that the historic consultant would have to give us more guidance on that, because it does say in here that the doors and windows in their location are what help to make it a contributing property.
Because I'm not sure if I saw any storefronts that had a door to the side as opposed to the center, because I think they're all typically at, somewhere in the middle.
So I think the bottom line is that to alter the storefront, period, would require a historic resources report that would evaluate not only the local historic district or historic landmark, but the state historic downtown. And they would evaluate that, and that document, recommendation, and such would come before the HPC. And then the HPC would be able to make a determination.
And it's also possible, I don't know all the ins and outs of this, but you could hire a historic architect that might help you to even make it more original, and then it could be landmarked and you could get a tax break on the building.
But again, this would require, you're going to be required to
Requires a
submit.
process.
You're right, you'd
Yes.
still be required to submit a historic resources
Right.
report prepared by a historian.
But with the
Registered.
landmark, then you can apply for the Mills Act, which gives you considerable property tax savings. And given the wonderful history of that building, with all the different owners who were like these top citizens during their era, but I can't advise you on that, but I do know that it can happen.
And
I have a
that could-
question. Are you renting the space or are you the owners? Okay. Is that still
It would
relevant?
have to be the landlord, I guess, would get the
Yeah.
tax break.
I do want to say that this is so Ojai. You know, we have these buildings that are really a mismatch of buildings that were these old West sort of things that Libby then unified and then had these prominent architects of Mead and Requa create this arcade that, and then over the last 100 years maintaining this look, but then having it being such a burden onto the property owners to take care of it, that the city came in and took over the care of the arcade up to the, to the store. But each store, as you walk in it, they're all like, the floor, everything is so different and unique because just when we're trying to do the downtown historic district, we're trying to look at roof lines, and the roof lines are up. We all had to work together. We all had to figure out a way to, and somehow not somehow, we know how. A lot of really good, strong civic leaders that have worked over the last 100 years to work together with the city and have this little mishmash of buildings actually end up being this significant resource to the state of California. So, I don't know. It's just so Ojai. That
Just read one little paragraph from the historic report, because
Sure.
I think it sums up where we're coming from. And this was written in 1993. It says, "The greatest threat to the architectural character of the structure," meaning the arcade, "comes not from the arcade itself, but from the storefronts that face it. For this reason, any declaration of historic significance will be useless unless accompanied by strict design guidelines to control the visual impact of the storefronts." So when they landmarked it, they really felt that if you didn't control what happened to the storefronts, then if everybody did their own thing, then it would lose all its value as a historic structure.
So the other storefronts were never really modified?
No, not necessarily. Some of them might not have been, but when they came up with this scheme of how it was going to look, if you don't know what the original storefront looked like, then you come up with something that's compatible and appropriate for that era, and then they wanted it to be throughout the arcade, so they made it design guidelines not just for one individual building, but for all of it. And they tried to capture the original openings as much as they can, and that's what the historic consultant said, was that because the building as it exists has the original openings, then it qualifies as a contributor.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
It also has the beautiful grates on the outside, on the bottom, on each side, that are just so wonderful, and so typical of that time period. I would hate to see those go away.
And same with the windows up above, because they look like they're kind of falling
Yeah.
apart a little bit. So if those were kind of reconditioned a little bit, that would be great.
Well, we were certainly going to keep that. That was one of the proposed
Transom.
solutions. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Great, thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are moving on to item number 4, Structures of Merit Ad Hoc Committee Report.
Thank you, Chair.
So, before you begin, I just had a question. So in reading through that and going to the top of page 2 of 3, it says staff prepared a recommendation to the council. It refers to, additionally, staff consulted with the planning resource. Can you tell me who the staff is that put together this report?
Staff is culmination of staff and community development.
Turn your microphone on.
Oh, sorry. Thanks. The staff reports are prepared by several people and reviewed by several people, and so by me and the director and the city manager and the city attorney.
Okay, so those 4 people would have been involved in what is presented to us, or could be.
They could be.
could be.
Yeah, so that's what staff means. Staff,
Okay,
staff is all of us.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure people understood who was contributing to the report that you're
Well,
going to share with
Yes.
us.
On that topic, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to go to the
Okay.
staff report. So,
Okay.
please.
So thank you, Chair and Commissioners. So this is item number 4, recommendation for structures of merit list. That's a subject heading. So at the May 23rd, 2024 meeting, the regular meeting of the HPC recommended in a 4-to-1 vote to have staff forward a proposed list of structures of merit to the council with a recommendation that the city council adopt the list. So by the time staff got there, due to the survey not having been adopted, the age of the survey, the proposed structures not being further investigated by a qualified firm as to their potential current historic integrity, it became clear to staff that the path forward could not include a recommendation for the council to adopt the existing list. Alternatively, staff prepared a recommendation to the council with direction to initiate a request for qualifications from qualified firms to reevaluate the proposed list against determined criteria and/or requirements to govern the status and integrity of the list, the listed structures and properties. Additionally, staff consulted with a planning resource regarding structures of merit and their process, procedures, and format. And during this process, staff became aware of points that were not part of the current proposal that we were recommending to the City Council. So as included in Section 8 or 4-8.13 of the Ojai Municipal Code, the HPC may recommend to the City Council individual structures which they believe or feel or believe are deserving of being added to a City Council approved special recognition list. And at a high level, this process is appropriate and in keeping with the general plan. However, when diving deeper and drilling down the process, the recommendation of the process, it appeared that there were some gaps in how the list was created and how future structures are to be vetted. For this process to be less confusing for the public and commission, staff and council, a third party should be obtained to provide a technical evaluation for these structures. I want to go back before continuing to several meetings that we've had with the public in attendance and the current commissioners here, and both the commissioners and the public talking about how confusing, the process is. So the process for establishment of the proposed structures of merit list and the process for future additions or removals should come through as a recommendation from a third party with review from staff and the HPC, as opposed to staff or the HPC preparing and interpreting. Staff and the commission should not be conducting the technical analysis regarding this effort. Instead, staff and the commission should be reviewing the conclusions of a technical analysis, again, prepared by a third party. So I have had a couple conversations with the chair, and we've gone back and forth with questions and me trying to answer those questions. I have not heard from anybody else regarding this item, although I did, for the first time in writing, encourage the commission to contact me in advance. I usually say it here at the meeting, and I'm going to say it again. I encourage you to always contact me in advance. That not only makes for a more efficient meeting, but sometimes a calmer one. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions, and we do have a member of the public who has submitted a card, so.
Yeah, he'll be
so
speaking
if-
after the questions to
So, right, if
staff.
you have questions of me, that's, I'm here to answer them, and then we can close this and open up the public discussion.
Okay,
or
so
public comments.
let me start off with questions.
Okay,
10 years I've been here. We generally are expected to operate as an independent commission. We have council liaisons that show up. I believe the guidance to them is to be attentive to listen. I know we have at times asked the council liaison for guidance on things that they may only know. Oftentimes they have suggestions, but they have never been a controlling authority on our outcome. Question I have here is on page 2 of 3, that second paragraph there that you read. Let's see. Let's go to the third paragraph. It says, additionally, staff consulted with a planning resource in the city of Marina regarding structures of merit, processes, procedures, and format. Can you explain to me why staff reached out to whoever this planning source is from the city of Marina? I know who this is. I looked at the city of Marina and I could find no mention of anything historical that they were looking at or that showed up in their code, so I'm not sure why. I know that this planning resource person was, prior to City of Marina, current position was with Pacific Grove, and there worked with our city manager. I know that Pacific Grove does have, we looked at this beginning of the year, they do have structures of merit they put in place. And also, let's see, there's as we saw, there's some, I don't want to say criticism, but there's some mention of the report done in 2011, and that was done by San Buenaventura Research Associates by Mitch Stone. It was brought to the council. He told me, we talked about the fact that it wasn't adopted by the council. Mitch, again, these are Mitch's words, that it was brought to the council and there was an individual who essentially scared the council in agreeing with it. Again, Mitch's words, and that's in his thoughts, because he was here. I believe Craig might have been here at that time too, on why it wasn't adopted. So now we have that. We've used that for designations. There are other things that are in here talking about minimum professional qualifications. That our code, the code does not specify any qualifications that we have. I looked at the Pacific Grove, and it mentions having a licensed general an architect that knows history. That would be the commissioner on my side who received an annual award for that. It also asked for someone to be nominated by essentially the historical group. That would be me. I'm associated with the museum, so I think even with our composition, we may meet
And Craig
the minimum
teaches history
requirements.
and
Yes,
wrote
and then we
many
have
books and-
an architect's son who has all that. But I'm just, as we've had discussions, so how did this all happen? So 3 months ago, the package was put together with 75 pages. I called and asked Mara and Sherry if they could print that package out for me, so as not to blow my printer budget, and they agreed to do that. I came in and I picked it up, and then I went out to my car and was sitting outside and reading through it, and that's where I saw that it was suggested that we recommend to council to have an RFQ put out to basically review the work that we had done, and then come back from that to the council. So my questions on that is a couple of comments. Again, these are structures of merit. These are not landmarks. We have been talking about the structures of merit, as you can see in the timeline that's here, going all the way back to 2012. I think our goal is to put this forth to the council, and our wish is that the council would recognize the structures of merit and adopt it going forward. I don't foresee, again, because I've been here 10 of those 12 years, I don't see structures of merit coming up again for maybe the next decade, because we're pretty much covering in this now. And again, in talking about the structures of merit, this still has to go before the council. This is something that have spent a lot of effort on, and now we're spending a bit of angst on, and we have no idea whether the council is even of the mindset to approve structures of merit and going forth on that, let alone the cost of what it would be to put out an RFQ, and then for these firms to come back with the next steps that are outlined in page 3 of 3. So, so I have lots of concerns. The indication that I have received seems to be, and Mark conveyed this to me, is that there is an expectation of us, if we want the structures of merit to go forward, is to go through this procedure. The only thing I can think I was trying to figure out what is the upside. The upside to me is the fact that if we do say yes to go through this procedure, then basically we would have somebody reviewing the work that's been done. And, Craig, I looked at the amazing work you did, because it was talking about, not having support, like, we just put it in a one line, and I looked at, how much information is on every single one of those 37 things. And if we did pay someone a phenomenal amount of money to come in and review our work, I'm not sure where they would get more information.
And generally, those people, they call Craig. Because it's wrong, because they're not here, because they don't know the history of it.
Yes.
They end up calling Craig anyway.
Yes. So the only positive I could think of is the fact that if, say we agree to that and we say yes in putting this forward, then basically we would have somebody reviewing the information that's already put together and taking it to the council. Again, it would be their proposal to the council, not ours. Take it to the council, and because it has this backing of this group on the RFQ, that it might have more importance to the council. So that was the positive note that I could find in thinking about this over the last. So again, sorry, how did this all happen? I got that package, I went out, I sat in my car, I looked at the first paragraph, and it talked about us requesting an RFQ to go out and get this. And I said, yeah, there's no way I'm taking that back to the commission, because we had just in the previous meeting to that been concerned about the lack of support that we felt like we were getting from the council. And in fact, that's why we had invited the council to come. And so I went in, I talked to Mara. While we were talking in the lobby, City Manager Harvey came by after talking to Mara. I asked Bridget if I could get any time with City Manager Harvey, and much to his credit, on a very, very busy day, I went into his office and talked to him. His suggestion was that, as a compromise, that they would pull that from the agenda for the council meeting that night, and that I would come back to the HBC and speak to you at the next council meeting, or at the next commission meeting. This is the next commission meeting for that. So did I basically get it pretty correct? Somewhat.
Yes, I just thought you had questions.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
My question was, again, who this individual was, for which it seems like everything was support for everything turned upside down.
Yeah, there's many cities that actually have structures of merit. This is not a landmarking. This is just a resource list, and I've never seen this sort of level for a structures of merit in any of the the cities that I've researched, as well as the classes that we've attended and the questions that we have asked and other people have asked that we've gotten this information from. We are actively taking every class that is available to us that is on things like structures of merit, like the historic building code. I think I would put our chops up against anyone's at this point. We are not an uneducated board. We have worked really hard at gaining the respect of council and of staff for what we do. When Rick and Craig put this together, it was based on their life skills, their careers to put this together. And then the way Mitch was attacked on this, it made it sound like he was, you just see the letter that he wrote was not a favorable letter. He seems like he also felt that his character was being put into question. So having this person from a city that doesn't have historic preservation, I'm really confused. And then if I take off the hat of, like Brian does, he always takes his hat off, of HPC, as a property owner, for a list of resources that basically means, well, if you're on the structures of merit list and you want to demolish your building or you want to change the defining features, can we have a conversation first? It doesn't mean that you can't still tear it down. You can't still do all that. It's just kind of saying, take a breath, and because you have to take that breath, you have this historical building code that will hopefully offset any time that you would have that it might be worth your time to have this. But it's not a landmarking. It's just a very simple code list. I'm so confused about why, as a property owner, that I would want city funds to go for something way over the top of what is legally required for a structures of merit list for properties that these property owners may never demolish or may never want to touch their place. We don't need to know every single bit of detail on something that will never happen. Go ahead, Craig. I see you putting out your
Well, I
finger.
was just going to say, first of all, the name Structures of Merit is just a name. It means different things for different cities, and I think we established that way back at the beginning when we were looking at Santa Barbara, and we said, well, you can't compare our Structures of Merit, that term, with Santa Barbara's because they do have more investigation, but they also have more requirements for the owner. The same thing with Pacific Grove. I've looked at theirs, and they have more requirements for the people. They actually have design guidelines and things they have to follow as if they were like a little mini landmark, whereas ours is just a recognition by the city. All we're doing is taking the criteria that the city has established of what makes his property historic. You know, it's associated with an important person for the community. It was the location of important events. And we just established that it is a historic building, but we don't have all of the detail, as you were saying. Only when the owner says, I want to demolish this, or I want to alter it significantly, then we require the historic report and we require a more thorough investigation. And it makes sense to do it at that time, because why get everybody up in about the whole, yeah, I don't know what word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But when all you're doing is, I mean, a lot of these have been on our Structures of Merit list for 12 years. And people didn't even know it was on there because they have no desire to change their building. They may change the doorknobs or do things or something inside. But most of them, they haven't changed much in 100 years. And so why would you spend thousands of dollars?
Taxpayer
And
dollars, yeah.
And we've already done the work of kind of sorting out our first round of these 25 historic properties. We've already done that. But now you're saying that moving forward, that's going to be done by this historic expert, this consultant. Well, according to the survey, there's 300 properties that are Category 1 historic properties. And so that would mean that that guy would have to go through all 300 of those buildings and determine whether they were actually historic or not. That would cost a lot of money. We do that, and we're volunteers, and we can decide just as well as they can. I'll tell you, I've been on this commission, and the amount of time I've spent correcting these historic reports, because you get somebody from Los Angeles, even if they're a trained expert, they don't know Ojai's history. They don't know what's important to the community. And so it takes a lot of work, and usually they're reading the books that we've written or that,
Yes,
whatever,
that would be that fun.
to find their information. So
Prop.
it seems like, what really kind of I think is that we were, for a whole year, from the very moment that the city council voted 5-0 for us to take this list and give it to them, and they didn't vote that we had to update it. I've gone back and looked at it. They voted that they should get the list for them to consider it. And it was only after they took that vote that I said, would you like us to kind of update it too? And they said, yeah, sure, go ahead. The main vote that they had was to consider it because they felt that all the buildings they were shown were important. Very next meeting, I think, we were told, can't have any money, so we can't hire our own consultants.
No staff time.
No staff time, and you can't change a single word in the code. You can't change that. So we work on it for a year and a half, and we finally get it. We get it together, and then we're told, we've got to change the code because now we're going to have these experts deciding, not the commission. We're going to have $100,000 to pay these experts to go through it. And
We have no idea how much it really would cost to have.
yeah, we don't really have any idea. And, we're going to have staff time because the staff's going to review everything too and be on it. And it's just like, well, wait a minute, and given the history of this project going back 12 years, it wasn't that the council back 12 years ago voted against the survey, like they didn't like the survey. What they didn't want to support was the recommendations of the consultant, which was that every Category 1 had to have its report done. And that freaked everybody out, like you said, so they backed off it and didn't vote on it. But it doesn't mean that the survey isn't valid. In fact, for 5 years after that, when I was on the commission, the staff was using that survey to tell property owners that they had to do a historic report along with their application for a demolition permit or an alteration. So they were using it, but for some reason about 5 years ago, which I don't know why, they stopped doing that, and we don't get any requests from the staff to investigate any house that comes before them. They don't use historic reports. The other day I was at the Planning Commission meeting and the World University came up. The Community Development Director said that's not historic. He didn't have any report. He didn't have...
What did he say about it? It was that it was all online back in the 80s?
Yeah, and he even said it was only it was just offices for an online program, which was completely wrong. The thing was a ongoing campus that had people coming from all over the world to study there. So, he just, in his mind, said, no, you don't have to do a historic review of it. Well, heck, if the commission has to hire an expert to tell him when things are historic, the community development director should have to have an expert tell him when they aren't historic. And that doesn't happen. So anyway, I think we should keep what we have. We can make it work. And I think we'll be better off. I think the public will be too alarmed if we all of a sudden start sending people to them to do detailed studies of their. And what if the expert finds that, oh, this is really important, it should be a landmark? Then is the city ready to landmark all those properties that he kicks back to you?
Because they will find that out.
I don't think
Most of
so.
these properties could, and they hit all the numbers. They could very easily be landmarks. So when that report comes back from this expert and it says that it could be a landmark, what does that mean? Does that mean the city?
They're going to have to, if they've got any ethics at all, they'll have to recommend that we landmark those properties. And then, then what? So right now, we're just saying it's historic, and if you want to demolish it or alter it, then you have to do the in-depth study to discover all those details.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to call timeout. I think we've moved from, there's questions in everything you were doing, but I just wanted to call a timeout to allow Jeff Holland to come up
So then you're going to open public comments?
and open public comments while he's walking here. Come, if you'd come to the mic, please, Jeff. Sorry,
If you'd state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Great. Jeff Holland, pastor at Ojai Presbyterian Church. I was before you back, I believe, a while ago, talking about the state law, and I got very helpful comments from the city attorney about that, saying that the exemption is not absolute, that the exemption requires the religious organization to declare an exemption based on hardship according to the state law. And I just wanted to make sure that you are aware that we sent in a formal declaration of exemption to the city council, the city manager. I have copies of what we sent in right here if you would like it. And based on the exemption that we've declared and the state law saying that if we declare an exemption that we are not under jurisdiction, no, it looks like this. I made 7 copies.
oh, okay, well, this has your name at the top, so.
Thank you.
I think when we made our resolution, we said that we would accept anything the city attorney determined about that.
Right, and so all I'm doing here today is just saying we made that formal declaration, and I get the notices of when you're having meetings, and I see those, and I just want to make sure that we have presented you what we're required to present to you, and that you're aware that we presented it. That's all I'm asking today.
That's up to the attorney. So.
Sure.
Do you mind if I ask you?
Not at all.
Okay, so this isn't a landmarking. This is a structured
Mhm.
numerical list. I think at this point.
Is your microphone on?
When we first started talking about this, and we had a lot of people in the audience, we realized that we didn't have the answers that warranted going forward, and that's why we kind of pulled back. We contacted education resources that and tried to get ourselves as educated as we could before going forward. So I think we showed that we didn't just want to push something through that we didn't even understand really ourselves. So we took a lot of time to self-reflect and make sure that we were being mindful of the property owners and of the resource that the building might be. So when we came back and we said that it was a structures of merit list, that it's simply a list that gives you that breadth, that says, let's talk about before you demolish it. I don't think you plan on demolishing the church anyway. Let's talk about it before you take out the defining features off of it. I don't think you plan on doing that anyway.
We have considered that.
Oh, so let's just say you wanted to. Now you wanted to do something. If you're on the structures of merit list, you then have the state historical building code at your disposal to use. That gives you an entirely different set of guidelines that you can use in a historic structure, and much more lenient. Could save you in a hardship situation. It can save you time. It can save you money. So what is the? I don't want to change your mind. I just want to understand. What do you think we're trying to do? Because obviously we're terrible at messaging because we scare people, and I don't. So I just want to understand if that's our intention, and that is the way it's written. If this ever was to be approved, that you had this California building code, to be able to use it. And we can't decide, we can't tell you not to tear it down anyway. We can just say, we wouldn't like you to because of these things, but it's ultimately up to other people way above us that would make that decision anyway. So why wouldn't you want to be a part of a list that basically can help more than hurt, I think? So I
Sure.
feel like,
I understand your question. Let me say this first. I don't make decisions at the church.
okay,
The way our system works is we have a board of elders that are elected by the congregation. The congregation elders have all the control. I serve as pastor of the church, they run the church. So what I'm doing here this evening is representing them. So I will do as best I'm able to explain why they approved this motion to be offered. So basically what it is the conversation that took place there was that we are the congregation that built that building. The other building we built is also on your list. The one that's, it used to be Offices of the Pews, it's on Montgomery and Aliso. We built that building not to be beautiful. We built it as a building to serve the purposes of the church for worship. And so what the church is saying is that if we wanted to redefine the sight lines, anything else going on with the church, we would be doing that on the criteria based on what meets the needs of the church for worship. And that is the sole criteria that they're willing to consider. So I would say that the group of elders is not freaked out because the fact is that our building looks very similar to the way it was back when it was built in 1929. The congregation loves the building, but I do know that several years ago we were, if you're familiar with our church, it's supposed to be a Roman cross. But it was built in 1929 during the stock market crash. They had to have an emergency loan from the Presbytery of Santa Barbara for $8,000 just to finish the building. It has one arm. It's missing a whole nother arm. So it's not a cross. And so when we were considering 8-10 years ago putting the other arm on because we needed seating, the elders ran into a wall of frustration with city telling us all the rules that we would have to apply to because our building had special merit. And so the Board of Elders basically said, if we make a decision, we're making it on the basis of worship, not on the basis of the beauty of the building, and that we were going to hold to that. That's where the conversation went.
okay.
So right now, we don't have any plans, but we're a growing congregation, and if we run out of seating, then they might consider that. I'm not saying they're going to. I'm not saying we're there yet. I'm simply saying they were unanimous in saying that the criteria they're basing that on is the needs of the congregation and the worship, not the beauty of the building.
Got it. Thank you so much.
So is this cross inside the church?
No. The physical layout of the building
okay.
is supposed to be a Mission Renaissance Roman cross.
Okay.
But they did not have sufficient funds to put the left arm of the building on,
Okay, I
which
get
is
it
currently parking lot. Because in 1929, when the stock market crash hit, they didn't have enough money to finish the church. And it's never changed. And because it stood that way for 96 years now, that when we talked about completing the original design of the building, we just hit a wall. Or when we talked about enlarging the building, we hit a wall. And it left an impression upon them that the decisions they're making is based on the worship of the congregation, not on the building.
Okay.
Because there's nothing in the historic preservation law that would prevent you from doing that, because it's allowable to make additions to historic buildings. It's not like you can't do that, particularly if the original design was to have that. That wouldn't be something, I mean, I don't know who you talked to in the city that gave them problems with that, but we have, I mean, look at the library. It was done by the same architect as your building. And they added a whole wing on to that library, and it's still considered a historic building, and it's part of the state historic district as a contributing property. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you.
No, and I hear that, and I can tell you that the congregation loves our building. The congregation has maintained our building impeccably. I mean, if you go by our building, we're on it. We just jumped $250,000 into fixing it up and sprucing it up and making it, doing repairs. We just dumped another $15,000 in replacing all the tiles that were broken to keep it up to the standards and the beauty it is. But I can tell you that the session was unanimous, that they don't want to be under any regulations, that they're not forced to by the state of California.
I have a question related to what both you guys are talking about and what you said. So, given this information, which is quite interesting, what the Reverend is talking about, would let's say they wanted to build this wing that never got built.
Yeah.
Could the California Historic Building Code kick in on that if they did an addition? Or is it
Well,
only
that-
to the building that's existing?
I mean, what I would suggest would be to landmark it and then use the Mills Act funds and federal funds and have, and grant money and all sorts of things to offset the costs.
Well, they can't use Mills Act because you don't pay property taxes, right?
We do,
Oh, you do?
yeah. But I can tell you, there wasn't a dissenting vote in the room.
Yeah,
They
I-
want to keep their freedom to use it for religious purposes as the congregation needs those religious purposes. So what was discussed was if some, and I can't even believe this is reality, so I'm not asking you to put any weight on this. But the question was raised, if the building became so unusable as to take it down, and everyone kind of gasped at that concept. They said, we would want to build the building in the form that it was best suited to the purpose of the church. No one's going to take that building down. We spent $250,000 almost 30 years ago seismic retrofitting it so that it won't fall down in an earthquake. The building's in great shape. They desire no animosity. They simply saw and are aware of the law of the state of California, and they found that if they declare an exemption, they feel they have the freedom to use the building for religious purposes as they so desire.
No, I get that. I just really wanted to understand. And I would like to say to whoever's watching this or any, if you can't get past, if you think it's something that we can help with, we always want to help. So if you can't get past that front desk, or if you can't get on our agenda, just show up and talk in public comment, because if there's, through the resources and classes that we have been taking, we are learning about so much resources, so much out there that can help. So even if, because it's a building from the 20s and it is historic, whether it's on list or not list, we're always here to help.
Sure.
So if you get stuck at the desk, walk around and come to our meetings,
And we appreciate that. There's no ill will.
Again, Mara, front desk, always helpful.
Sure.
Okay.
And
I
we're aware.
just want you to know that we have full confidence in
we're aware of that because I regularly have to re-secure the 1929 lock on several of the doors. We're aware of the history of our building, and we have worked really hard to maintain the visual beauty of our building. But we have, I mean, if you see our doors to the sanctuary, they're solid wood and they're this thick.
Yeah.
I mean,
even if it's
we're
not a
aware of it.
landmark, it doesn't ever get on a list, we can still help you.
Sure, and we appreciate that.
yeah.
We- There's
And,
no animosity on our side, there's
They're
just
try-
a firm
and this-
view.
And this wing, this other arm, that was before Morris' time anyway.
Oh, no, no,
They're talking 10
I
years ago.
remember distinctly who I had the conversation with, and it's no one in the room.
Yeah, just letting you know, we get excited to help, and I think that is one of the reasons why I like preservation so much, is because no matter who I've called about any of this, everybody gets right on the phone and everybody wants to
Sure.
help. So,
Yeah.
because once a resource is gone, it's gone. And if you get stuck and you can't find something like you said, doorknobs or hinges, that we do have people to talk to, and even if it's not a landmark, we still want to help.
And we appreciate that.
And no matter whether the city recognizes it officially or not as a structure of merit, it's still historic. I mean, you can't change that. It is
Sure.
historic. All that we do is just that the city will recognize it as historic, for better or for worse, I guess, that's what it is. It is a historic, and it's got a story, and it has
Sure.
some beautiful architectural work and the whole thing.
And I can assure you the congregation adores the building.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Have your elders come and see us. I'm serious.
Oh, thank you so much.
Good luck with that one.
Thank
Well,
you.
great.
And, I was thinking, when I was listening here, David Mason worshiped in our church.
Yes.
And a lot of people that you mentioned tonight were part of our congregation. And they love the building, and we're aware of that.
And the Presbyterian Church goes way back. I mean, it was
1877.
the first real church, I think, in Ojai.
It was, yeah, and the first building doesn't exist anymore. The building on Aliso and Montgomery, which has been moved 3 times, was the second building when the 2 Presbyterian churches merged. And then they outgrew that and built our building, unfortunately.
The one that's there now was the original. It started out where the fire station is,
That's the second one.
and then it moved to where, what's the store that was there? Jersey Mike's.
Right,
It was there.
right,
Next to the women's club, and then it got moved as the Nazarene Church
right.
up onto
But
Montgomery.
as I've read the history that's in the church and the logs, that's the second church. The first church was closer up to Thatcher, and it was a very small, insubstantial building that didn't survive.
Interesting.
So the one that we're talking about on Aliso and Montgomery is the second building. We're the third building
It was
currently.
actually, the funds and the plans were donated by Charles Nordoff, who the town was named after.
Yes, for that second building. But the story that's in the church logs is that his wife,
His wife was responsible.
yes, but the full story that has been told in the church is that his wife they're from New Jersey.
Yeah,
She commissioned 2 sets of plans,
right.
and the plans she liked,
The
she
stone
built in New
ones.
Jersey.
She built the stone one.
And the one she built here is the one she didn't
Yeah.
like as much as the first one. So, yeah. Yeah. No, we're very aware of our history.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all, appreciate it.
Great, thank you very
Good
much.
evening.
Okay, getting back
Any other public comment? Can we close it up?
any other public comments, Sherry?
Nope.
Okay, so getting back to, yes, we're closing public comments, but yeah. So getting back to this, so I just want to put us to where we're at. And again, Mara and I have talked about this, is what happens on the decision we make today. So if we support this in going forward with the RFQ and everything else, then we have support in doing that and taking that to the council. I've been told if we decide not to do that, then we will not have the support.
Yeah, I kind of think that
Microphone.
Microphone?
to do what's recommended would mean a change in the code. It would mean that the code would have to be changed. So that would involve a process that we went through 5 years ago when we wrote this code.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel comfortable recommending something that isn't part of the law that we followed and were told to follow, and we followed to a T, to just say, oh, well, because somebody in the staff would like to see that be part of the process, just say, okay, we'll let that happen. And then meanwhile, our code says something different. So I'm wondering if we can't just table the thing until we have our joint meeting with the council and get direction from them as to whether they want us to create new code, if it's going to mean that we're getting a different recommendation from staff. I mean, to my point of view, staff should be supporting their commission, but if they don't feel they can, then I think we need to change the code or see if the council wants to change the code. I don't advise it for all the reasons we've stated here. I think it would be a big mistake. I think it would have to be looked at through CEQA because it's going to make it a lot harder for the city to recognize historic properties. And if
And ignore them once they are recognized.
Huh?
And ignore them once they are recognized.
Right.
Because they are going to find out that we have a lot of resources in this town, and then what are they going to do with that information?
So that I kind of thought about it, and that was where I I felt that maybe that's the best approach, is just, it'll be a new council and we can lay it out and say, this is what we did and how it happened, and we believe in that process. We're supposed to be recommending to you, the council, how you approach historic things, and then the staff can make their argument and see what the council says. But
I agree with you there. I also would like to acknowledge that we asked for a budget to have our survey updated, which is we're supposed to have it updated every 5 years, and it's been quite a while. And Mitch Stone from the San Buenaventura was gracious enough to give us a really fair amount that we asked to be put in our budget. The budget amount was itemized by our then liaison, Leslie Rule, and the amount was approved. I told Mitch that we were going to get, Maura was going to get in touch with him, and then it got stuck with this thing of I'm not sure what happened, but that would something that I think that needs to be brought to a joint council meeting, as well as this window survey that is recognized by the state of California as something that is appropriate for your city to have of your resources, that we are able to use the funds that were approved and finish it. And so if we're having a problem with, I mean, $8,000 for Mitch to do this versus, we're talking, way into the 5s, maybe into the 6s to get something like this done on a massive scale of doing an HRI. All of these things on every single property, that it's just, as a taxpayer, I'm much better when no staff time, no money. I'm more comfortable with no staff time, no money than I am with the money will come. If you get the council behind it, don't worry about the money. I'm not comfortable with that. I like to think of being very frugal and doing what the state of California requires us to do. The Secretary of Interior Standards requires us to do, not spend money we don't need to spend. There's no law that says that we need to go over what the state of California is requiring us to do, or the State Secretary of the Interior Standards. So I think we need a joint council meeting to see why we aren't going forward with Mitch. Maybe he does need to do a little bit more. Maybe there's, and that's something that we have our second class next Thursday. Yeah, so we can ask the experts and the attorneys and the field representatives and get a clear answer as to maybe send them a copy of our survey and say, is there something in 2024 or 2025 by the time this is done that maybe we need another line item, maybe we need a little bit more information just to make sure. But and then we bring that back to Mitch, who, if it's going to be a lot less money to have the person or the group update who did it in the first place than starting from scratch. The price that he gave us was an update. So I think that finding these the structures of merit, following the current ordinance, following the law from the state of California on the survey, I think we need council's advice on this. I can't, I feel very uncomfortable approving or asking, having this, the way it's written, the staff recommendation to go forward. It's just so much money and so.
And it's so
Over the top,
unnecessary,
yeah.
it seems to me. Why would we do that? We can tell whether, we have the knowledge and the skill to tell whether the property is historic, and then when they want to change it 10 years from now or 15 years from now, then is when you require the historic report of them to show what needs to be saved and what doesn't, and how they can best meet the requirements of the Secretary of the Interior Standards.
Yeah, the St. Bonaventura Research Group, they're well respected in preservation. It's not like, and that is an outside group. It's not one of us. So, and it's somebody who's local within the county who has the historical knowledge. And was going to have Craig, ride shotgun in the situation where, he could, if Mitch ends up with questions, that we do have a historian to help any questions. So, I mean, it stays within the pocket of what we're supposed to do for a reasonable amount of money that have been approved for what we asked to do. So I'm like to ask council. So.
Okay, thank you. Loren?
I agree.
Okay. So then I guess the options is to basically say no to the RFQ, say yes to the RFQ, or as Craig has suggested, to table it for this time until we get some more insight from the city council. Because I said that right at the beginning, is the fact that all of this angst, and we don't even know if the city council,
The new city council. The old city
the
council
new
was
city
5-0.
council would support this. Anything else before
I
I?
do have one
Go ahead.
clarification. When the council said, go ahead and update it, what we decided to bring forward to council in our packet that went to council that night that got pulled was updated in verbiage and worded like information, but we didn't add a single property onto that list. In fact, we took properties off that might have been demolished and the churches, we left them kind of off to the side and but when you say that you updated the list, you didn't add to it. And I think that's something that needs to be acknowledged, that you,
Well, we toyed with that idea of adding to it, but then we decided that we would just go with the original properties for this first round because they had already been in the works and had been vetted so much. And
so that's something that I just want to acknowledge when we talk about this list that, we just kind of came up with. This is the same list that has been going back and forth on the city's website, off the city's website, used by staff, not used by staff for 11 years, at least. And not a single property was added to it. This is the original list. So, because I think when you said earlier that council asked you to update it, I just wanted to clarify, maybe update meant taking stuff off, or maybe
there might have
updating
been
the-
one or two added in 2019 when I wasn't on the commission then, but Commissioner Dupuy, I think she worked with the commission, and they might have added one or two at that point, but
Yeah, it wasn't consequential, so.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
Most of them are the same, and we just took off the ones that were in our the downtown historic district we were looking at, and the ones that had become landmarks, we removed them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the one good thing about having a survey like this is if it sits at the desk, most of the properties on there are not historic. You look, it's not historic, it's a done deal. There's not a question. There's only a question of, it's a 1, it might be historic. We're not saying it is. It says a 1 is, it appears to be. It's most, it's given that appearance, but it doesn't mean that it's a done deal either. It means that now, before you get this permit it's on this list, so we need to acknowledge it in some way and make sure, because once a resource is gone, it's gone.
We also went back and looked at the properties, and we determined, and we also asked the people who showed up at the meetings, if your property has changed so that you don't think it's historic anymore, submit a letter that states that. And so, but we didn't get any that. We had people say their
we got
property
any.
wasn't historic, but we didn't have anybody actually show us, well, we removed that wing, or we did this and that, and so it's no longer historic. So we did a process to update the integrity of the buildings as well as what properties were on it.
Right, but you didn't create, it's like we didn't try to overstep and create a bigger list or
No.
do anything.
No.
So we really decided to just, pass it with something that has already been well vetted. And I just want
But
that.
bearing in mind that there probably are more out there that we would want to look at moving forward, because we know of 28 of them that are in the downtown historic district that are right now not recognized by the city. It's like the state of California recognizes the Ojai Library as a historic resource, but the city of Ojai doesn't. It's not on our anything, so it has no recognition of being historic by the city of Ojai.
And the whole reason to have this commission, it's our responsibility to let the city know the list of resources. What the city does with that list of resources is, not necessarily up to us, obviously, but it's our responsibility to let them know this resource exists, and that's what the survey's for, that's what the structures of merit list is for. It's just doing our job.
Well, it's so that when the planning commission is looking at a piece of property, they too can say, well, we need to find out about the historic, not only traffic and noise and all these other things that we have to consider, but is it a historic property? And they debated amongst themselves on the World University for a while at their meeting, but they had all kinds of strange ideas of what made it historic or not historic. And they didn't have a report or anything in front of them which said, well, these are the reasons it is historic or it's not historic. They were just, somebody said because the sanctuary on the World University had been torn down, that it was no longer historic. But that isn't relevant to what, because the property was historic after that sanctuary was torn down. So it's a good tool for the planning commission and the council and everyone to have, just to know what are your historic resources.
And every year, although it's hard to imagine a lot of 70s properties, but just because I'm old, but every year that goes by is one more year that properties that have significant architect from the 70s might suddenly be something that we would look at. In future commissions will be looking at the 80s and the 90s and doing the same thing. It's a 50-year cutoff, so that's always moving too.
Well,
So-
there's one property on the structures of merit list that wasn't even in the survey because it wasn't 50 years old. The official cutoff date is 50 years old, but 11 years ago it wasn't 50, and that's the Humane Society building that was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright's grandson, and it has now come into, and the era where my father was an architect, those buildings, one of his houses was just put on the National Register. So those were things that wouldn't even have been looked at as historic 10 years ago.
But that's the reason why it's updated every 5 years, because preservation is always moving. There's fires,
Yeah.
there's earthquakes, floods. Besides that, there's demolition by neglect. There's all of these things that take something that's a resource to not a resource, and then add resources that because of the date change. So that's why we keep this updated list, and it's not to restrict people. We're not trying to create these lists to create problems. We're trying to create these lists for tools and to make it easier. So there's no question. And like we said, you're going to go through that survey. Most of those properties aren't historic. You'll hit one every once in a while, and that's that. So I think we do need a joint council meeting.
Okay, so any other questions, anything else, anything you want to add, Mara? Otherwise, I'm ready to.
Thank you, Chair. No.
Okay, so do we
I'll
have a
move.
motion then? Again, those three options.
I'll move that we table and ask the city to table this until the HPC has had a chance to meet with the city council in a joint meeting and get some feedback from them.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Okay. Sherry?
Akins,
Yes.
McHatton,
Yes.
DeSasha,
Yes.
Sims,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Okay, great. Everyone, thank you very much. We will move on to Item number 5.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners, again. Item number 5 is proposed Ojai Civic Center Historic District Ad Hoc Committee's progress report. And at the last meeting, which was in September, the Vice Chair McHatton actually didn't have anything to report at that time.
Still
And so,
don't.
okay, I was just going to open it up to you to give something. And
Yeah, I have some things to say. So.
Oh, okay, so Vice Chair did not have an update, but open it up to you now, Chair.
Okay, so we now have 7 people that will enable us to have a 3-member ad hoc committee meeting as well as other ad hocs of, and so that I think is a positive step in why we've been pursuing 7 for a long time. This has been a bit on the back burner with everything going on the structures of merit. We have a meeting in December that I'll talk about when we get to future agenda items. And then my plan is to capture all of the information, basically a status report on where we're at now, on what the properties are, who we've contacted, who we've not contacted, the people that we didn't weren't able to reach out to, why we weren't able to reach out to those individuals, and then have that report for the commission in January in reigniting the Ojai Civic Center Historic District in the new year, because ain't nothing gonna happen during the holidays. At least not in my house. This guy is going to Nevada getaway. So that's the plan. The plan is to find out where we're at right now, and then also the thing for the commission to be thinking about is things like it was interesting when we first started this. We had an ad hoc committee meeting. We had 3 people in it because Craig wasn't a commissioner yet. But then we also had separate groups that had separate assignments. Like Gina and Jenny were working together to get the 1-pager out, to get the 7 pages out, the information out. So I think part of it is to look back on what we have done and maybe what we could do better going forward. And not, no, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say, I'm fighting off the complaints, we'll put it that way, that we got when we started the initial thing. So, but the goal is, I love that we're putting this on pause. I think that we will have especially with 2 new members on the council, that we will be, that they will desire to get to know the commissions, and that we will get a joint session with the council earlier. At least that's what I know a little bird is going to say.
So can I add on to that?
Yes.
If we're going to be talking about the Downtown Historic District and the structures of merit, we had one person from district last time that took a great deal of time in public comment, and when it was past their time, there was a couple council people said, go ahead and just let them talk to get out their thoughts. And
Oh, that was in the joint session?
yes, we are given 1 hour a year with our council. Isn't that horrible? I met with our city manager, and I had requested that the commissions have 2 meetings a year, and that they're scheduled when the city council meetings are scheduled. It's like, it'll be, planning is this and this, Parks and Rec, we just know. So then it's like, we start thinking about what we want to talk about and when it's going to come, and we know every year it's going to be in this month and this month, and he said that he would really try to at least guarantee that to be one meeting, and that it would be already posted when they plan the year out. So I'm really hoping that he sticks with that, and I hope that we can get in a second one, because 1 hour or 1 meeting a year is really hard, especially when we don't want to be rogue. We work for the city, we work for the city council. We don't want to spend our time and our energy and our effort on something that you don't want us to be doing anyway. Or maybe you want us to do it, but it's just slightly different approach that we would know because we only have this one meeting a year. So with that said, I'm really hoping that with our city manager sticks with that from our conversation. But I also would request that it's not backed up to a city council meeting, that it doesn't have a hard end time, because if we do end up with a full amount of people, because we put on there, we're gonna talk about structures of merit, and a bunch of people show up and they all have public comment, and then all of a sudden it's time for your city council meeting to start, and then we have to wait another year. So I really want to know that when we have their time, we have their time and we have their focus, and it's not with that pressure of, okay, they got to get this down. Like last time, I ran out of time. I didn't bring up the downtown historic district because there was no time. We only talked about the structures of merit, and that was very short because of the other things that were talked about. So those are my requests for a meeting that they're planned at the same time city council meetings are planned a year in advance, so everybody knows when they are, preferably two, and not backed up to a meeting that if we do end up with a large amount of people, that we can accommodate that and still have time to get our requests and thoughts out and hear feedback from our council.
So I will pass that along to the mayor,
Then, yep,
the next mayor.
okay.
Yeah.
And I did talk about it with our city managers.
Oh, great, great. I will tell you that joint council meeting that I had planned in detail with Mayor Sticks, and it got derailed by that individual, and also Cindy Combry had
Yeah,
a
Cindy had to
bone
tell
to
us the
pick.
history of commissions, which I mean, it's important information to know, but we got an hour, 1 year.
Yeah, yeah.
Once a year,
So-
1 hour.
So, but I think, it comes down to being backed up to council meetings.
Yeah,
Those are
it's
hard
rough.
deadlines. And we were pushing that. So excellent thoughts. Thank you.
But I don't have anything to add about the downtown historic district right now.
Yeah. We'll get information.
We go on the next thing, or?
And part of it is that we will have, and this is a good thing. So we have people now that are on the commission that know people. Okay, so I was going out and meeting people that I didn't know, but when, I went to Treasures of Ojai, I took Cindy Combry with me because she knew the owner, and also they're two very strong women, and, I'm just a guy. And, being able to take someone there that has different insights, can answer questions, and we have Loren and Rick, additions who know people.
And Randy and,
And Randy and Laurel too, who know people. So,
Yeah.
That's it, to mine the capabilities and experience and then take that back to the people.
and putting together a public forum with property owners and other interested stakeholders would
Yes.
be really helpful, I think, because, like I said earlier, we're terrible with messaging. We really got to work on this because, we are a helpful bunch that just wants to do good work and do our job. So
Yep.
if we're not getting that across, that's on us. So we have to work a little harder.
Okay, any questions on item number 5? Okay, item number 6. What staff report do you have?
Item number 6 actually is a 2015 CEQA case studies that was submitted to staff by Commissioner Walker to provide as information to the rest of the commission. And so the recommendation is to review and file. If you have comments or questions, now would be the time. However, again, it's provided for your information.
Okay, thank you for that. I want to, right off the bat, if you look at my copies, you'll see they're fully marked up. The CEQA case that you that's included here. Although some years old, I was talking with Mar about this. You can go back to the code sections, but it has great information. And it talks about local register of historical resources, significant in historical resources survey. Some local governments maintain their own historical registries. If a lead agency is unsure about a resource, they should consider hiring a professional historian or archaeologist who meets the Secretary of Interior standards. So this is something we were just talking about in a previous thing that's called out in this.
Yeah, there were several things in here that kind of jumped out at me, and I thought they were relevant to our conversation. And you touched on some. For example, at the bottom of the first column, it says if a lead agency is unsure about a resource, then they should hire a professional historian to help them. However, CEQA ultimately delegates final authority to the lead agency to determine if a resource is historically significant or not. So I think that really plays to the point that if we do hire help because we're unsure, then that is like advice to us in our process of making a recommendation. But they make that point, you don't turn over the registration of your historic properties just to the recommendation of a professional who may not know your community. Also, we talked about our survey being a little older, like 11 years, which really isn't that old in the big scheme of things. And they do recommend that you update your surveys on a regular basis. However, when dealing with a resource that has been identified as historical as part of a survey, lead agencies should treat the resource as historical unless there is a preponderance of evidence indicating that the resource is no longer eligible. So you don't just write a property off because it was discovered 10 years ago. You still consider that historic unless somebody comes along and can show you that the preponderance of the evidence is that it's not. And then it tells you what kind of evidence that local lead agencies can use in determining if a property is historic. And it says local knowledge, a formal determination by a commission. So all the things that we've used to determine that these properties are historic, those are all considered to be valid by the state. And we're not even talking about state designation here. We're talking about just a local. So anyway, I just thought there was a lot of really important things on how we identify. And I just recall back to when I was on the commission before, back around 2012 and 13, and how we were, what the staff did is if a property came to them, they would look on the survey. If it was a 1, they would make them get a historic report. And we got those reports, and we investigated them, and we commented on them and sent our comments to the Planning Commission. So this is something that was business as usual, and then for some reason it stopped. And I've written to the city and asked them, why is that? Was there some new thing that I'm not aware of, or that we have? And I have never received an answer about that. So that would be, I think, interesting for us to know as we move into a discussion with the council, is have there been a change? I mean, you say that in your report, there could be some changes, and I'm not in the law or whatever that would mean that some of these things don't apply anymore. So if there are, please let us know.
And this document that was created by an outside source that was paid for by the city of Ojai to create this list and have it be used by the city for many years and then suddenly stopped, it doesn't mean that the list doesn't exist. And the list still exists, whether they decide to look at it or not. It doesn't make a property not a number 1, not historic, just because they're not looking at it.
Right.
It just makes us have to pay more attention to every planning and everything that happens. Drive up and down streets and just hope
And
for
it
the
doesn't
best.
matter unless the owner is proposing some major change, and then
Exactly.
that's when you get the study done.
So thank you very much, Craig,
Yep.
Thank you for
submitting
providing
that. Number 7, future agenda items. So on future agenda items, way up in the corner, the next meeting is set for December 12th, 2024. Are folks going to be here December 12th, 2024? Do we want to meet in December? So that's my question,
Rick, read
first question for,
I will not be here.
and Lorana,
I know Laurel will be here,
I don't
because I asked her.
I don't know where I'm gonna be.
There's a
Somewhere.
tent village over here that may have an opening, just to let you know.
Well, you know, since being retired, there are other things in life,
Yeah, I agree.
and this is important, but
Yeah.
is
well,
there,
I'm-
is there, I mean, we talked about, we can't meet in December. Do we have any business that needs to be done or we'd like to be done before the year's up?
So I have 2 items. One of them more than likely will be ready, and that's here on your pending projects, 700 San Antonio. There's a historic resources report that's been written. It's been delivered, and they're proposing some things on that site. And so that should be ready to come here for the December 12th meeting. And then there's another item on here, or that I have that's not on this pending list, that also perhaps will be ready. And then the other thing, besides 2 items, that will be public hearings, so both be work permits, is for the chair and vice chair vote.
Mhm.
So,
And we'll have 7 commissioners.
Yes.
so the thing that I mean, we have to, if we walk the walk, we gotta do it. And one of the things that we said was, if there was a work permit that had to come to us, we would try to be as efficient and quick as we can. So if we wait until January on this, I'm uncomfortable. But I know that I saw something with your dates. When are you, like, could you do it the following week on December 19th? Like if we were all here then or something like that?
I am back on the 18th.
So from Europe, where we're going to be really
Europe.
tired, Rick?
Well, you also
I
don't
might
need to have
Pass out.
Commissioner
Well, if we're doing a
Basasha.
chair and vice chair, I think
Oh, that's
everybody
true.
wants
Thank
to
you.
be.
I
to
was
weigh in
thinking
on
more
that.
about the work permits that,
Yeah.
again, we do try to move them along as quickly as possible.
Mhm.
can we do a meeting at the end of November? Like,
Well, that's,
I don't see how that's possible with public hearing notices. I mean, legally, I don't think we can get
Mhm.
that
Okay.
together.
so I'm available on the 19th. I know it's close to Christmas, but we could bring candy canes and wear hats.
Yeah. Yeah, the 19th is actually better for me.
Is better for you? It's
Mhm.
better for me too. How about you,
19th would be fine.
Loran?
it's great.
Can we possibly do the 19th?
So, just a second.
Because I
had the
really
wrong
hate
month.
waiting till January on a work
Oh,
permit.
yeah, I
I really
agree.
want to, if we're gonna try to make an effort to be accessible and quick, then waiting. Something about saying, even though it's not just 1 month, just make the idea of, oh, they're not gonna see me until next year, it just sounds terrible, even if it's just another month. But I mean, if we can do it on the 19th, are you around? You are.
My only caveat on the 19th is that if I pass out during the meeting, you're going to have understanding
prop
about
you up.
that.
Yeah.
Well, probably.
I'm serious. I might pass out.
I'll pick you up.
You'll pick me up?
I'll drive and I'll have my husband drive us here. And then he can sit there and make sure you're okay.
We thought you meant like literally picking up.
That's what I thought.
I can have a cup of cold water. So I was just checking in. I don't see a reason why we can't change the date. Just a second. You'll need to know if your other two new commissioners can come as well. And I think when it comes to the vote that you're talking about, then you probably want them to be able to attend as well.
Well,
So-
yeah, I can check with Laurel and Randy.
So can you get back to Maura tomorrow, and then if it falls
Sure,
out, then we could try to play
sure, absolutely.
dates through Maura?
And see if they were going to be here on the date we're supposed to have the meeting. too.
Well, Laurel was gonna be here,
Oh,
so,
okay.
because I checked that the other day, 'cause asking her if she'd be back. So, yeah, but I will check with them both and I'll let Maura know.
So
Um,
that's pending a date change? How do you do that? Do
Sorry, just a second.
we need to vote on a pending date change?
Wait, I just thought of something. We need to make sure another commission doesn't have that date. Is it a
Right.
Thursday? Because
So it would be a Thursday.
Arts meets on the third Thursday, I think. I have to look it up.
19/12/5.
Are you looking it up right now, Sherry?
Actually, I don't have access to the list, so no, I'm not.
Okay. So that is the third Thursday, and I think that it seems to me that we're not going to be able to make that decision right now, but we can look into it afterwards, and what will happen is the regularly scheduled meeting would be canceled, and then we would be calling a special meeting. And so the hearing notices would go out. I want to remind the commissioners that we have two work permits, and they have diligently been working to get on the December calendar.
Okay, good to
And
know.
they've- Of course, I can't promise anybody anything, but they've been tentatively scheduled, and they, again, have been working diligently.
Okay. Well,
So
that
we
gives them a
know-
little bit more time.
We
Yeah,
know.
they don't need to. I mean, everything is submitted. We're ready to go.
Oh, okay. So we have the San Antonio Street. The other one?
The other one, it's not on the agenda for me to
Okay,
talk about.
okay, that's
However,
fine.
it is
That's fine, yeah.
it's a work permit.
Okay. Future agenda items are future on the agenda. So I was at Treasures of Ojai the other day, and I talked with Katrina, and she would like to pursue landmarking that back wall. Because if you look at the back wall, you'll see kind of, it looks like the end of a church there with the gray brick that's up there. And so just that whole wall.
Isn't that already part of the CESB wall?
No, not that wall, the wall on the building itself, not the,
But I mean, isn't that part of,
I think we just did the wall. We didn't do any of the buildings with
But
the,
what's interesting, though, is the State Historic District stayed on Ojai Avenue. They didn't go up any street,
that's right.
but they went up that street just a tiny bit, and Treasures of Ojai is included. So it is part of the State Historic District.
So, yeah, I think, she mentioned landmarking it and Mills acting it, so. But I asked her, I said, we've seen the back wall if we park there. But look over to the right side and you'll see it's a gray, so it looks like it came from a church. And I think I sent you a message or something wondering where that rock might have come from.
well, I think it's the same rock that was,
It looked different.
oh, it does?
It's a gray rock rather than the normal rock that you see. It looked different to me. And it looked like it was laid out. Again, it looked like the end of a house, kind of, the way it was done.
Because both the buildings that were there were built by Tom Clark, and he had his house where the parking lot is.
Right.
And then
Well, go by and
yeah, I'll take a look.
Yeah, it's interesting. So people say, hey, I want to landmark it, especially downtown. And she was a yes on our downtown historic district, so. Anyway, so that's what I had for a possible future agenda item.
Is it Commissioner comment time?
I think so.
I have a comment.
Oh, well, we didn't get planning, well, we kind of got planning report. Do you have anything else you'd like to
I don't
add?
have anything else to add, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, commissioner comments.
I'm just going to bring up, I thought I brought it up before, but I'm going to bring it up officially. Now that council is having their meetings at Kent Hall, it would be really nice to take advantage of this, this chamber being not used as often, and take the time to look into what it needs to make sure that we're taking care of it properly, and maybe some updates, and make sure that, you know, we're doing everything that we need to do to maintain this chamber. Because if they move back in here, then it's going to be a lot harder to get anything done. I mean, if just when you look at the walls, it's all scuffed and scraped, and you know, it's just we need to take care of it. It's an amazing gift, this place.
Yes. Okay,
So,
excellent.
and this is just carrying on from Cindy Convery. She's the one who brought it up a couple of years ago. So, I always had it in my head, but you know, being the fact that this place is always filled with people, that it just seems like now is a good time.
I agree. Yes, Craig.
I have a commissioner comment.
Sweet.
I heard from somebody that they felt that Ojai Day had, in spite of all we do down at the jail,
Yeah,
had lost its historical connections a little bit.
yeah, I heard
And
that too.
It's a great day, everybody loves it, and it has all the original features that we had back in '91. But the day was meant to honor Libby and honor the history of the community as well as the community today. So I was hoping maybe we could brainstorm some ideas to give whatever, is there a Ojai Day committee that puts together the plan? I mean, not that we would tell them what to do, but that we could give them some ideas on how we could have some events or things to really promote the history more like we do at the jail.
Yeah, we're so good at the jail. We even find the ghosts. I know I did.
I remember on the first Ojai Day, we had a guy come who was an actor, and he played Libby, and he got up and,
Well, Libby was there at Ojai Day.
well, I know, we had
He came up, I'm
Rose
like,
Boggs.
Who are you?
Yeah,
I'm Mr.
he
Libby.
did a great job.
You don't recognize me?
Well, that was his.
He was great.
That was just a few years ago, also.
What?
Well, I remember seeing that fellow wandering around not very long ago. Maybe it was Libby himself. And I was hallucinating again.
He was just back from Italy.
Do you want to move forward with these or any other items? Then you need two people to agree and give us an aye, and then we can get it on the agenda. Otherwise, you're just commissioner comments. You can talk away as long as you'd like.
So I agree with what Gina said.
So take a vote,
Okay,
or I guess we have two. So you'd like that to be put on the agenda then?
Yes.
The chambers?
yes, please. And the other suggestion?
Yeah, I'd like to visit, I've asked several times, the landmarks, to make sure that they're being taken care of, like the Ojai Elementary School that's falling apart down there.
Yeah, we've mentioned that.
But we
Yeah.
need to talk about it. I mean, the days go by and things fall apart, and pretty soon they're not there anymore. I sort of feel like, as you said, people not taking Ojai Day as seriously. I sort of feel like people aren't taking Ojai's history very seriously anymore. I
But
think that's-
just watch something disappear, though. Like when the
I know.
arcade, you know, they started to take down the arcade, and it was like, well, it's like, you know, you don't want to wait until something is in
Do we
such
have enough of
disrepair.
those people here still? Enough of them? Enough of us that love it so much, that care?
I think we do. I think Ojai is a very special place. I just think that
We need to start
I think
teaching
that
them.
people just assume there's people taking care of it, or will take care of it, and I think that's a lot of a assumption. Because but as far as the district building, I had asked the chair to at a meeting, or if he was going to the meeting, to remind them that once again, like I said to our guest, we are here to help. We don't want to stop it from, adaptive reuse is the key to, preservation. We don't want to stop it from becoming whatever it's going to be next, but we might be able to help. We might be able to find resources or find developers, there's so many things that we have discovered and learned over the last, few years that that we're not, just making it very clear that we're not trying to stop anything that they want to do with their building, that we want to help.
No,
And
I mean, just to keep it from falling down, it needs
in the
a little bit
meantime,
of
yeah, that's the thing.
paint and a
It's,
little bit of what, cement?
but
Something.
that's the problem. In the meantime, while they're having all these discussions, now that they've moved out, now that they've moved funds away from that building, while they're trying to decide what to do with it, is when, because that's right near my house, and I drive by it every day, and you can see like just the bottom on the side just starting to crumble from the base, and I'm just like, but there's no funds set to do something on a building that you don't know what it's going to be, so we're kind of at the mercy of having them be speedy in their decisions and find someone that's going to take care of it. But we're here to help.
So along that line, again, with the new mayor coming in, he had put out a proposal on Facebook maybe 4 months ago on what to do with what the school could do along the lines of what they're doing, but also wants to focus on building a strong relationship between the city and the school district. And so what I was going to suggest to him is that when he's doing a strong relationship between the school district and the city, because the school district honors the fact that it's a landmark. I haven't heard it. We've made the offer, but I think having a member of the HPC on that committee would be, is something that I would suggest. And so that's where I am in pursuing that.
Good.
Is getting us involved from that standpoint, that, not that, we're going to do any work, because Mara and I talked about this, but then in having that person on there, essentially you have the okay and the guidance of the council on us helping in any way we can. Whereas right now, if we went and, tried to help, we would be outside really our purview.
Well, I know there's been a
To a
few members or people who have worked at Ojai Unified that seem to have the idea that we don't want it touched. And do you see that when you that are we thought about as a hinder or a help?
I see that on Facebook. That is not the school district's position.
Okay, good.
That is other people's position, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm sorry, I didn't go to the school board meeting last night. I had a deadline, had to be met by noon, and I was freaking tired. So, and it wasn't really, they were doing an update. So I think the fact in wanting to build that relationship, it's been discussed in council, and it's been, it was going to be Mayor Sticks and council member Rule. I would see Mayor Sticks at the meeting. I would see Leslie Rule at the meeting, but I didn't see, never any feedback on interaction.
Not like a unified committee of a group of people who are actively trying to help. It's more just kind of, they attend and kind of
Yeah.
around.
So, yeah, no, they're very, very, they look, after they get this whole thing on the side, this is what they've shared. They will look at some purpose for the landmarking. How it can be repurposed and keep it in place, which the repurposing would then cause them to want to take care of it. I think right now, they have the bond money, but they've just decided it's needed where the people are.
Yeah, that's what I said. The money is not going to go.
But
to building
every
that.
time I've been there, they emphasize that, this is a historic structure that we're protecting and gonna find a way to repurpose.
But,
Yeah.
like the last thing we watched. All of the architects that are available, that want to help, that are so good at repurposing, and they're so excited about getting involved in people's projects. I mean, I can just see what they might offer that the district would never think about doing. And that's, I don't think that they'd be open to that, which is too bad. Because I don't think they know that's out there.
Yeah, no.
So we have to tell them that.
We just got, Planning Commission just got a new, I think, husband and wife. He is a commissioner on the Planning Commission. He's an architectural landscape, and his wife is an architect. They have their office here and in New York. And Steve Quillisi spoke highly of them, so, you know, maybe we can poach them too. So,
So that's, yeah,
For
that's
poaching.
something that's always on my mind is that building, because, and I'm gonna do my, especially after the election and everything, one of the cool things about preservation is it's one of the few bipartisan things left around, you know? So we have to, use that to our advantage, you know, it's not a partisan thing. You know, we may come to it for different reasons, but we, all are here for the greater good, and we all want to help. So that's
Well, I
nice.
also like the idea of building on what we talked about last time with the Bunce brothers and the historic point of interest, and taking the Ojai Trail, and all it is just basically saying, this is a point of interest. You're not doing anything, you just have a plaque with a picture of what was there. So as people walk along the trail, they have these little historical things that they can look at that go all the way down to the packing house, you know, but also includes the old train station and the,
that was a big thing for Terry Hill.
the
We were
olive
going through
press.
the code and different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you have those kinds of things, they're just amazing. So, anything else?
I also, what did Craig say? Because it was, to come up with ideas
For
for
Ojai Day.
Ojai Day. So I would like to second that,
Oh, okay.
because, yeah, so we can have a discussion and.
So to put Ojai Day discussion on the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be like a recurring thing on the calendar.
Yeah, just so we could, you know, anytime we could involve the community too, and involve students and some sort of projects and things, that would be really, that's when you get everybody excited about.
You want this to be on the calendar every month, or you want me to put it on the agenda every month, or you want it just to be on the agenda so you can specifically talk about it and get some ideas and save those for next
Yeah,
day?
whichever
next-
works best.
Next, or actually, every month you can see if you say that you want it on again, I guess.
What do you think, Craig?
Yeah, well, the person that approached me was actually Julie Tumamite, because the first Ojai Day,
Yeah.
she built a tule hut, and they had a whole little Indian village, Chumash village that they constructed in Libby Park that the kids could go look at.
Fabulous.
So, you know, we could involve people from the community to contribute to it.
So maybe that's if, you know, it's on there, but then it's just like tonight I didn't have anything to update with the historic preservation, you know, downtown. If it's just recurring, but we don't have,
Yep.
it doesn't have to,
But we could have a focused meeting where we can invite people to come with their ideas about that particular thing.
that'd be nice. So we just need 2 people, you don't need a vote, you just need 2. Great.
Anything else?
Do these meetings have to be at night? I mean, I'm thinking about December. If there's another commission that's going to be meeting, could we do it at a different time of the day?
If there's a special meeting, then we can also have a special time.
Okay,
That's a great idea.
so can you look at that too, please?
Well, I think it's, yes, however,
It's
it's up to, are all of you available during the day? I know you're retired.
But I'm busy.
it's
But
finding
is
out.
everyone else available, including the other 2 members?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can find out about Randy and Laurel as soon as you can,
sure
then
will.
we can go forward.
Yep.
Well, and perhaps Commissioner Basasha, you'll let me know what your schedule is, because, you know, are you going to be out of the country for the entire month, or the couple days that you're not going to be? Like you said, you're back on the 18th, and then are you back for the rest of the month? That's, you're gone for the,
I hate to sound like a jet setter, because I'm not really, but
sure.
I'm back the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st.
Okay,
And then I'm gone till the end of the month.
okay, so 19, 20, 21.
Yeah.
Great.
And if it's the 21st, I might be less likely to black out. And if it's not at night,
But is that a
also-
Saturday or a Saturday?
The 21 is a Saturday, so it's the 19th
Okay,
and 20th.
so it's just the 19th and the 20th, and I'm assuming that the 5 of you are available.
Yep.
We're
Any
retired.
time of the
You're
day,
all
if I don't have
retired.
to come back early from getting away, yes.
6 a.m. Okay,
No, I won't be here at 6 a.m.
no,
She'll be here at 7.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else? I'm reaching for it. We ready? Huh? Yes? Okay.